Monica Yatooma. Oh, found her.
You're in front of. And that should just give you a green light when it's on.
And then you tap it once to mute it and tap it again.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. And welcome to Michigan's 9th Congressional District.
If you're going to sit down, you better do it now.
Yeah. My name is Lori Skivo, and I'm the chairman of the Michigan Republican Party's 9th Congressional District Committee. And I am joined by my vice chair, Braden Jacobazzi. And we want to thank each and every one of you for being here today. We extend a warm welcome to those of us joining us on live stream. Before we begin, I would like to take a moment to tell you all to silence your phones, please.
I should probably do that too. Okay, so as you can see, we are honored to be here at the Rochester Christian Church, a sold-out venue. So due to the overwhelming interest for this event, we added a live stream so that even more people could participate in this important conversation. Now, you've got to thank the techs here because they've been working tirelessly this week trying to figure out how the heck you're supposed to do that with us. But we think we got it, so thank you, Zach. Go for it. I would also like to extend our sincere thanks to Pastor Richard Christian.
Pastor Richard, thank you.
Pastor Richard at the church here.
Today is about transparency, accountability, and the future of election administration here in Michigan. The conversations we are having here matter, and the decisions that follow will have a lasting impact on our state. So thank you for being here, and thank you for your commitment to this process. At this time, I would like to introduce Janet Cargill, a delegate from St. Clair County, to lead us in the invocation.
Sanilac County, thank you, ladies. Good afternoon. Let's begin by inviting God to join us today. Because with God, all things are possible, and this state could use a few miracles. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we ask for your blessings upon this gathering. We thank you, Lord, for all the blessings you have bestowed on us, our life and our liberty to live it. We trust in you, Lord, and we proclaim The Lord is my strength and my salvation. Lord, we're in trouble, and we need your help. Our voter data is bloated with more registrations than people eligible to vote. And it's being managed by a third party we never elected and never consented to. We have testified before our leaders about the problems in our elections, but nothing has been done because our government is divided. Our judges won't even look at the amount of data we've collected. And so, Father, as you've taught us, we place our hands upon these candidates, and we ask and we pray that you will enter their hearts, help them to be honest in their campaign promises, and give them the strength and courage to clean up the mess, which is our Secretary of State. Because this is Michigan, we're not California, as we've been lulled into thinking for the past 8 years. This beautiful peninsula has been blessed with an abundance of natural resources, from our lakes to our rivers, from our forests abundant with wildlife, to our fields filled with wheat and corn, filled with potatoes and soybeans, to our orchards of apples and cherries, into our cities where goods are manufactured by skilled workers that we revere, in our universities whose research leads to innovations like converting your water from your well into hydroelectric power. And so, Father, we humbly ask you, bring us together, because we can't hold on to these many blessings if our vote doesn't count. Bring us together in the very state where the Republican Party was birthed, and help us to return our state to free and fair elections. And I say amen, and you say amen.
Thank you, Janet Cargill from Sanilac County.
You're welcome.
And at this time, I would also like to have everyone please stand for the pledge, which will be Dan Bowe, my fellow Congressional District 9 committee member and fellow 101st Airborne.
Woo! I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Dan.
You got the harmony?
Before we move into today's program, we want to take a moment just to talk about why this debate and this movement truly matters.
For Michigan, 2026 is make or break. If we do not succeed here, 2028 is a pipe dream. This election for Secretary of State is pivotal not just for Michigan, but for this country. Michigan is a battleground state. It is the epicenter. People across the nation have watched what has happened here. The level of corruption exposed in Michigan is staggering. We have seen the systemic persecution of poll challengers, citizens, alternate electors, honest clerks, some who are here today, and even attorneys willing to represent them. The swamp here is dark, and it is deep.
That is why the role of the Secretary of State matters so profoundly. The office directly impacts election integrity, transparency in the process, and the restoration of voter confidence across our state. That responsibility cannot be overstated. It is also important to remember that the Secretary of State, which is a statewide office, is chosen by convention. That means the decision does not rest with the media, with outside organizations, or with special interests. It rests with the delegates in this room and across the state. Delegates carry a serious responsibility to be informed, engaged, and thoughtful. We must unite behind a person of strength, integrity, and vision, someone with the courage to confront hard truths, engage with election integrity experts, and ensure that the election integrity is job one and that the job actually gets done this time.
We can't tell you which candidate that is, but any candidate willing to actually stand here today and face the rigorous, unbiased, and uncompromising questions from Lara, Logan, Seth Keshel, and Trump's attorney, Dr. John Eastman, is surely demonstrating the seriousness of this endeavor and how much they take this seriously. Please, oh, that's it. Sorry.
So before we continue, I want to take a moment to those joining us online. Today's event sold out quickly due to the overwhelming interest. We added a live stream so that people across Michigan and across the country could be a part of this important discussion. We are pleased to have Tom Renz joining us as our official live stream commentator. Tom is a nationalized recognized attorney, an election integrity advocate, and who will provide real-time context and legal insight for our online audience throughout today's program.
Tom's back there in the booth.
Later on, Tom will be joining us here on stage to interview the moderators and to help synthesize the key issues discussed here today. So Tom, thank you for being with us, and everyone watching online, welcome.
Now, please make sure that these candidates know how much you appreciate their willingness to step forward and take on the Michigan machine to bring integrity back to the state. The decisions that come out of conversations like the ones we will have today will shape Michigan for years to come. That's why this conversation matters. You're going to see QR codes throughout the venue, and for those who wish to support candidates and causes, please engage. Your engagement and your involvement is what makes this process work, not just showing up. So thank you. So now with that, I'd like to introduce Seth Keshel. So. Is that SoCal Mitch? Captain Seth Keshel is a retired U.S. Army captain and veteran of the Afghanistan War, where he served in the military as intelligence. Specializing in strategic analysis and forecasting. He holds an MBA, and he has built a diverse career as a technology sales manager, former professional baseball analyst. Is that true? And a renowned election data expert. Keshel gained national prominence for his precise election predictions, including accurately forecasting 56 out of 56 jurisdictions in the 2024 presidential race, projecting a 312 to 226 victory for President Trump. A leading voice on election integrity, he has traveled to over 40 states, delivering speeches and seminars on voter fraud and prevention, and his 10 points to true election integrity plan. Praised by former President Trump for his analytical rigor, Keshel has appeared on major platforms like the Flyover Conservatives, and he endorses candidates committed to transparent elections. As a moderator today, Captain Seth Keshel, brings his sharp intellect and commitment to fair process to guide our important debate.
And I have the honor of introducing Dr. John Eastman.
Again.
Our next co-moderator brings a deep constitutional and legal perspective to today's discussion. Dr. John Eastman is a board member and senior fellow at the Claremont Institute and the founding director of its Center for Constitutional Jurisprudence. He served over 2 decades on the law faculty at Chapman University, specializing in constitutional law, and has argued before the United States Supreme Court, where he clerked for Justice Clarence Thomas. Woo! Dr. Eastman also served as the legal counsel to President Donald Trump and is the subject of the documentary Eastman Dilemma, which explores his role in the stolen and rigged 2020 election. Please join me in welcoming Dr. John Eastman.
Lara Logan is an award-winning international journalist and war correspondent born in Durban, South Africa. She launched her career in the 1990s with South African newspapers and Reuters television, covering local stories in the post-apartheid era before gaining international recognition for her fearless on-the-ground reporting during the 2001 invasion of Afghanistan. This led her to joining CBS News in 2002, where she became chief foreign correspondent and a key contributor to 60 Minutes. She embedded with U.S. troops, lived in Iraq through 5 years of intense conflict, reported live from Baghdad during the fall of Saddam Hussein's regime, and earned multiple Emmy Awards, a DuPont Columbia Silver Baton, and other honors for a powerful storytelling on war and global affairs. Today, she hosts the acclaimed podcast, Going Rogue with Lara Logan.
And I kidnapped that girl in the poster.
What's that?
I kidnapped that girl in the poster. I've hidden the body, and then I'm taking her place. Because she's younger and prettier, probably thinner.
She can't sing like you, though.
Now, not now that she's dead.
On her podcast, she delivers candid, unfiltered conversations, which I'm sure you will see today, on politics, liberty, and truth-seeking from her Texas Hill country studio. As lead moderator for this Secretary of State debate, Lara brings her frontline experience, incisive questioning, and an unwavering commitment to facts to guide a transparent and substantive process. Lara Logan.
Thank you.
On to the rules. Okay. So the candidates have been well informed, the moderators are informed. The basic premise is this. We're gonna ask you, you guys are gonna get up here, you're gonna give your 2-minute lead-in so everybody knows who you are.
Where's the timer?
And then we're gonna have general questions that you will have 2 minutes to answer, or scenario-based questions that are 2 minutes to answer. And then we will also have 30-second answer questions for the lightning round. And then we will have the faster than lightning round, which is just quick yes or no questions. That's the basic premise of all of this. Do you guys acknowledge that you've received the rules? Yes. Okay, I think you're up.
At this time, I would like to introduce the stars, the real stars of our show, and a future Republican nominee for the state of Michigan's Secretary of State, Amanda Love. Amanda is currently the Clarkson Community School Board's trustee. She is obviously the Republican candidate for the Michigan Secretary of State. Amanda has been active in local education governance, running for elected office, and being engaged with residents in school districts that matter.
Monica Yatooma. Strategic Partnerships Director and Republican candidate for Michigan Secretary of State. She is a business owner and policy advocate, currently serving as Director of Development and Strategic Partnerships at GEIA, leading initiatives in entrepreneurship, education, and civic engagement. We also invited the third candidate, Tony Forlini. He didn't decide to show up. He's a Macomb County clerk and Republican candidate, but he has chosen to not attend today. His seats will remain empty. So you guys will notice on the screens, the timers will be on the screens here and on the screens up here for your questions. Is the tech crew ready with the timer? Michelle? I see the thumbs up. All right.
Where's the buzzer? Who's going to sound?
And do you have a buzzer sound? There's no buzzer? Okay. We have no.
We need a buzzer. This is the problem.
Yeah, you'll see the timer, but I guess they didn't get the buzzer.
I can't beat the buzzer.
Okay, that's it. So ready? Okay, so with that, we're going to start the debate.
You need something to signal that the time has ended. Something other than people looking.
Can you guys give us some kind of a buzzer or something at the end of the timer? Okay, I'll take that as a yes. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, so thank you very much, Braden and Lori. Appreciate you being here. Thank you to everybody who's shown up. This is quite something. I mean, I'm sure that none of us can imagine this many people being this engaged in a Secretary of State race, 20 years ago. Right, 20 years ago, most of us didn't know that there was a Secretary of State or have any idea what they did, let's be honest. And then something happened that shocked us all into consciousness. So I want to say thank you. It's a great tribute that people are motivated enough to be here on a weekend. That's important. It's a very important beginning. I want to say thank you to both of the candidates for being here. This is a big deal to put yourself. It's not a million years. I wouldn't put myself out in front of everybody doing this. But it's, without people who are willing to step forward, we know what happens. Special interests with lots of money buy their way into elections and select who they want to serve their own interests and not the people's. And I just want to point out that we've had, I think, the last 4 votes against fraud, waste, and abuse in the House have all gone against the president. So who you elect really and truly matters, including the U.S. African Development Bank. The head was just convicted of massive fraud, and Republicans still joined their Democrat colleagues to vote to continue sending your tax dollars to keep this grift going. That was yesterday. That was as recently as yesterday. So what happens, we know what it really matters. When you win an election, you should be able to rule and you should feel like you actually won the election as opposed to what is happening right now. So the fact that you're willing to stand up in this moment, nobody's trying to trick you or trap you. It's stressful. You've got 10 questions where you have 2 minutes to answer, and then you have 3 questions where you have 30 seconds to answer, and then you have the lightning round of 10 questions, okay, which is a yes or a no answer. So we'll make sure that you understand when we shift from category to category. The questions are tough but fair. The things that people really care about, that's what it's based on. So we just want to say thank you with the utmost respect for both of you for stepping forward. And I want to give Seth and John a moment just to say something very briefly. It's a bad sign.
I never said I was a technology expert. Hello, everybody. I just flew out of 74 degrees in Phoenix, Arizona yesterday and landed in 5. So not a big deal. Look, so on a serious note, there are a lot of people within the Republican Party that still think 2020 was some sort of a glitch in the system, something that struck once in a lifetime. Our elections are completely compromised up and down all across this country. All right, these are two people who are going to have an opportunity to tell you what they think about what making elections fair again looks like. And I want to make sure that you all know that we're going to have a good time up here when we can, but this is a very serious topic. And we're going to make sure that you get the questions answered that you need answered. Everybody needs to leave here knowing truly what these candidates believe. And there's a third candidate in this race. And I think you all ought to make it very clear that you wanted his answers. This is one of the biggest January crowds I've ever seen. That's a big, you guys should commend the team that put this together. And look, I'm always about solutions, even if it's in a lighthearted way. And I came into this church today, and I always have to suppress the military officer inside. And then I saw Lara, and I felt better about myself. But look, I'm going to go ahead and say this. Over the last 5 years, in the light of the COVID pandemic, I diagnosed a new national pandemic, and it's called electoral dysfunction. And it's characterized by 4 major things. Number 1, it's when you have difficulty maintaining an election. When your election lasts for longer than 4 days. When you have a sudden, severe, and noticeable loss of interest in voting. Or in the worst cases like we had in the White House for 4 years, or like we still have in Arizona, premature inauguration. So look, that's the last bit of humor that you're going to hear out of me for the next hour or so. But I'm really glad that you're here. I want you all to leave here feeling like you got your questions answered. Encourage them to be truthful in all that they have. Oh yes, and the reason that Lara wanted me to come up here. Yeah. So I used to have electile dysfunction shirts and my printer closed up. So that was unfortunate. So anyway, since 1934, how many of you guys were alive in 1934? Nobody. But you sure have a lot of voters, according to Tim Vetter on the voter rolls, that were definitely around in 1934. So look, since 1934, that was the first midterm in the Roosevelt coalition after the New Deal. We have a very defined pattern in how midterm elections shape up. The president's party usually has a very strong headwind. 20 out of 23 midterms since 1934, the president's party has lost seats in the U.S. House. 20 out of 23. So anybody that's walking into the midterms thinking that because you and your neighbors and everybody else is excited about what the administration is doing, thinks that means midterm success, you're fooling yourself. So these candidates are swimming upstream in a state that is already choked out with corruption. This is an extremely serious topic. We've prepared extensively for this, so has Braden and his team. Lori has done a great job, and we've got a lot of people here that want to fix the state. And I want to commend you because it's really easy, especially when it's 7 degrees outside, to move down to Florida. And the fact that you're sitting here fighting for your state says a lot about your character, so thank you. And without further ado, I would like to bring up Mr. John Eastman, who has played a critical role in helping deliver free and fair elections to the American people. So please give him a round of applause.
Those are 2 hard acts to follow. I'm not a comedian, but I will say I used to work for the most famous African American in the country, Clarence Thomas. And then Elon Musk comes along, and there's a claim that he's the most famous African American. And then I learned today that Lara Logan comes from South Africa, so now she's competing for the most famous African American.
I think that's called cultural appropriation, and it's now illegal. In fact, it's a death by hanging.
Yeah. Got it. Our Declaration of Independence has that famous line about all men are created equal, all human beings, because they're in the image of God. A corollary of that is the governments are legitimate only to the extent they're grounded on the consent of the governed. Now, I don't know about you, but I wasn't around in 1787 when we adopted the Constitution. Some people like Rudy Giuliani may have been, but most of us weren't. But we give our consent to the governed by free and fair elections. Secretaries of state positions used to be administrative, faithfully executing the law. They were not partisan. They were not putting the thumb on the scale for one direction or the other. They have become, however, ground zero in the fight for free and fair elections. And we have a choice before us. Are we going to continue to have a Secretary of State that skews the elections for her own political gains, or are we going to have Secretaries of State that faithfully apply the law so that we, the American people, know that the government that answers to us is based on the consent of the governed? And having been a political candidate myself in years past, I applaud both of you for stepping into this arena. This is not an easy task, and we are going to find out which of the two of them, because, you know, he's not even here. He's not even here. And you wonder, what is it that he's afraid of being asked about? So one of these two should get your support before we're done today. Thank you all very much.
Okay, so I'm glad you brought up the absence of Mr. Follini. So one thing I just want to point out to even the playing field is that if 3 people are running in a primary and one of them skips the debate, he may or may not be hoping that he's getting to eliminate one of the opposition candidates because it's just him. Because if one person does better than the other today and people rally around them, he's now gotten rid of some of the competition. Those are dirty tactics. We don't like him. We'd rather you just show up and answer the questions. And maybe the reason, and I'm just throwing this out there to even the playing field. I have no dog in the fight. But maybe the reason you don't show up is because you actually have a record of not doing anything about vote fraud. And that's the #1 issue in the election. Okay, so, ladies, I want to say, you get a chance to introduce yourself now, but I'm begging you from the bottom of my heart to not turn it into a campaign speech that makes me want to suck my brains out, okay? Seriously, say something that you mean, that means something. It's your time, yes, to present yourself, but when you start to slip into the, you know, that sort of political speak that doesn't really resonate, the audience slips into a coma and voters are not inspired. So with that, who wants to go first? Brave woman. Okay. You now, okay, we don't have a real buzzer, but I hopefully that man's gonna strip naked and ring bells every time you get to the bottom. That's gonna get everyone's attention. There'll be no confusion. Okay. You have the clock up on the wall? No, I don't see it. Clock up on the wall. There we go. And the floor is yours.
All right. Can everybody hear me? Yes. Okay. Well, stay tuned for my closing, Lara. That's going to be very, very good. This is going to be a little boring, but I'm Amanda Love. I'm a Christian, I'm a wife, and I am a mother to 5 wonderful children. So you know that I know how to run a tight ship. And I don't want my children growing up in a state where illegal aliens are left to vote and our elections are insecure. If we don't get a handle on our elections now, we are destined to live in a one-party, Democratic-ruled state for the rest of our lives. The stakes could not be higher. I am happy to be the first and the only candidate with a very comprehensive plan to fix our election system. First, I'm going to create an election integrity special investigations unit. 2, I'm going to stop talking about cleaning up our voter rolls, and we're going to actually do it, and I'm going to withdraw from the ERIC system on day 1. We're implementing a pink driver's license for legal immigrants only, so we know that they are not eligible to vote in our elections. 4, no English, no license or CDL, period. 5, establish training programs for sheriffs, police, and prosecutors on election law. 6, create a statewide voter fraud tip line, 1-800-MY-VOTER-FRAUD, because we want to stop the steal before it happens. Now, if it does, we're going to conduct a full forensic election audit, none of these fake matching the tapes with the poll books, and we're going to give real jail time to election violators. So, I'm the only candidate in this race with the most experience that you could possibly want. I can't get into it all because I have 1 second, but I'm Amanda Love, and I would love to earn your vote. Thank you.
Okay, Monica, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me? No. It's not my fault. They did it. Oh. Hold on. Get it close. Is that
Who's
better?
resetting the clock? Can
Oh.
we have the clock reset, please?
All right. Good. Hi, everybody. Gosh, it's already nerve-wracking as it is, and all I can think about is my hair getting stuck in the microphone. All right. So, Monica Yatooma, Secretary of State candidate. More importantly, a wife, a mother of 3 amazing kids, and a very proud and devoted Christian. So I own and operate a biohazardous medical waste management company, and we operate statewide. And so I operate in an industry that's a very strict compliance environment, and I operate in an industry with very strong chain of custody and documentation. And what I can tell you is this. If I had done just a fraction of the things that Jocelyn Benson has done to bend or break the law, I would be sitting in jail today where she belongs. And for me, that double standard it's unacceptable. I know I'm preaching to the choir. We know that our elections are a mess, but what we need to know is how to fix them, right? First and foremost, Amanda talked about this, we're gonna take Michigan out of ERIC, right? The Electronic Reporting Information Center. That's easy, we do that on day 1. But we need to clean up our voter rolls. We have 8.3-ish million people on the rolls, but only 7.8 million people that are actually eligible to vote in this state. So the math is not mathing. So we need to fix the voter rolls. We need to secure and strengthen the chain of custody on our absentee ballots so that when there is a break, we hold that break accountable. And if that break is a person, after we hold them accountable, we prosecute. Right? I think all these things are important. And I think experience is important. I have the business background. I have the grassroots advocacy background. I'm the only candidate that's actually managed a team of people, hired people, fired people when it's hard, because that's what this job is going to take. Somebody who has this kind of experience, somebody who has the backbone to do the hard things that will be necessary on day 1 going into this office.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Monica. And thank you, Amanda. Okay, Seth Keshel is going to start with the first question.
All right, ladies, thank you for the introduction. Now, as you know, confidence in elections is at an all-time low. You happen to be running for the top spot over that vital function in arguably one of the most corrupt states of this country with regard to elections. So please tell the audience how your experience, which you sort of detailed, applies directly to why you should be elected or first nominated as Republican Secretary of State. Go ahead, Ms. Love.
Okay, so that's perfect because I didn't get to get into it a lot before. So I am the only candidate in this race to have actually worked directly under a Secretary of State. So I was the personal assistant to Secretary of State Terry Lynn Land, and I got to see the day-to-day operations of an office. So we traveled together across the state. I got to see all the branch offices, clerk's offices. We had a national clerks convention that I ran, and we also met in the Detroit office where I took notes on the meetings, met with people, shook hands, and also we'd go to the Lansing office, obviously, quite a bit too. So when she was termed out, I moved on to the Attorney General's office where I got legal experience there. And I really got to see, as you guys know, there is an elections division at the Attorney General's office, and they work very closely together. So I'm the only person in this race to have actually worked within those both departments. So I find that a very unique skill set. I also have experience in the legislature. I put my degree in public policy to work, and I've actually helped write laws in public policy for the state. And some of the changes that I want to make require legislative approval. So I also went to college with the Speaker of the House. We have a great relationship right now. So if we need something done, I think I'm the best person to get it done. So I've also had experience on the outside. I've run campaigns for over 20 years. So I know what it's like to run a campaign, and I'm tired of having to calculate if I have an inner city, Detroit, Pontiac, anywhere, I have to calculate the amount of fraud that I need to beat in order to beat the Democrats. Enough is enough. I've worked as an election inspector. I have the experience from the inside and the outside to truly fix our election system and improve our customer service. So thank you.
Ms. Yatooma. Ms. Yatooma.
Go down. Can you guys hear me? Yep. All right. So we're running for an office that demands the highest integrity and transparency. So when we stand up here and we tell you about our qualifications and who we are and what we've done, it's important to be honest with you guys. I think that my opponent's experience is great. I think more importantly, it's important to distinguish what the actual experience is, right? When she worked for Terry Lynn Bland, she was her driver, and at times she would assist. That doesn't mean that we got to sit through the inner policy meetings and workings, the legislative meetings. That doesn't mean that we know the inner workings of the Department of State. An important clarification and a very important missing context. Also, she was the secretary for Bill Schuette in the Attorney General's office, not doing actual legal work. I think experience is important. I mentioned to you guys that I own and operate a biohazardous medical waste company. I operate in a space that's a strict compliance environment. On a regular basis, I deal with OSHA, Lara, DOT, the EPA. Strong documentation and chain of custody is important because medical waste from point of generation to point of disposal has to be documented, logged, and tracked every step of the way. That same discipline, that same rigor is exactly what I will apply to our elections, to our voter records, to our voting equipment, to our ballots, because that's what's going to be important. I was the parent in Oakland County that filed the lawsuit to have the mask mandate dropped. I don't just get mad and yell about it. I take action. When I see government overreach and I don't appreciate it, I take action. I started a C3, a C4. The C4, I raised $1 million in a year to go hire door knockers, phone bankers to do voter registration across the state, to help Republicans take back the state house and to help Trump get across the finish line in 24, because that's who I am. I'm not only action-oriented, but I'm results-oriented, and I'm not afraid to do the hard work, which is exactly what this office is going to need on day one.
Thank you very much, Monica. Amanda, you have 30 seconds to respond because there were allegations directed against you personally.
Yes. Well, I'm glad this is getting brought up because truth matters in an election like this. And the facts are that my title with the Secretary of State was not driver. That's not a civil service position. That's not the position I had. So that's misinformation. I was her assistant. I never claimed to be the highest ranking person in the office, but I did claim that I got to see the day-to-day operations and essentially shadow the job of which I'm applying for, and that's important.
Thank you very much. Okay, John Eastman for the next question.
So back in 2020, Secretary Benson ordered the destruction of poll book data and all the flashcards within 7 days of certification. She's now codified that in Rule Set 2025-14, Rule 8, to destroy the poll book data within 7 days after certification. Federal law, specifically 52 United States Code 20701, requires that election officials retain all records and papers regarding applications or registration, and then this is significant, or other act requisite to voting. It seems to me the poll book data is an act requisite to voting, and that information is by law, federal law, required to be retained. What would you do with response to Rule Set 2025-14 and Secretary Benson's orders to destroy the poll book data? And this one goes first to Monica.
So when you're trying to delete e-poll book data after 7 days, let's be honest, the real reason you want to do that is because you want less transparency and you have something to hide. So Jocelyn Benson went around our state legislature to JCAR, the Joint Commission on Administrative Rules, and she applied this rule set. So JCAR works with state agencies for administrative rule change. So she found a loophole and she took advantage of it. And so it would take working with the state legislature, that's one option, to undo this. But to be honest with you, I don't see why we can't do exactly what she's doing. So I would go right back to JCAR and re-administer a new rule set and undo exactly what she did with this rule. But also, make sure we'll file a lawsuit because, like Mr. Eastman mentioned, she violated a federal law. Federal law says you have to retain these election records for a period of 22 months at minimum. And I can tell you guys, as your next Secretary of State, we're going to see a huge change because I'm actually going to uphold and defend our law and our Constitution.
We'll take extra time. Can you reset the clock, please? Thank you.
Okay, so JCAR is the biggest scam that I've seen since working in the legislature. So Benson is circumventing the legislative process by using this committee who does not have quorum. And then after 15 legislative days, her rules, her quote unquote rule changes are taking effect. Well, I don't subscribe to that. It does violate our state law and our federal constitution. So I am not going to acknowledge this as a rule, or certainly not a law. So that's it. We're not going to abide by that. That is nothing short of a cover-up and a scam, and I don't plan on abiding by anything passed by this scam committee, JCAR. It's not the right thing to do. They're not following Robert's Rules of Order. In order to take a vote, you have to have quorum. They never do. This is wrong, and I can't stand for it anymore, and I won't as your Secretary of State. Thank you.
And Mr. Forlini?
So I think at this point, this is not in our list of questions, but we're going to add a question here just in terms of the conduct of Mr. Forlini at this point. You both get an opportunity to take a shot at him since he didn't show up. Starting with you, Monica.
Oh, we actually get to take the shot.
Yeah. I wasn't kidding.
Oh, in regards to the rule set?
Yeah, in regards to his position, well, you can pick.
Oh, okay. Well, can I just say this? He actually really is a nice guy. I will say that. But yeah, he is. He's not a bad guy. But here's the thing, and this is why I'm up here. He's had 4 years as a clerk, guys, right? To point out the voter fraud, to do things for election integrity. He's had that chance. I know what I would have done if I was a clerk. I know what I would have had the authority to do and what I would have stepped up and done. So I know that when we had these rule sets and we had these public meetings, I was there. I went and I made comment. He wasn't there. And I think that speaks volumes because, again, he's not here.
Thank you. Amanda.
Nope. Just grab a mic.
So I have a rule that I don't really speak ill of other Republicans unless they violate the Constitution. So the Secretary of State, for example, Brad Raffensperger, I can attack him because he absolutely did horrible things for us and for Trump, and he violated our Constitution, so I have no problems attacking people like that. However, with Mr. Forlini, he is not here. I do take shots at him when he is, but I'm not going to do that when he's not here to defend himself.
Okay, so my question for you both is, it's everybody here knows that when issues came up with the 2020 election, the current Secretary of State did absolutely nothing to address any of them. So what we would like to know is what should she have done, and what will you do in the midterms or any other election if you were Secretary of State? What would you do about the things that went on? Amanda?
Yes. Can you repeat the first part? If I was Secretary of State, what would I do?
Well, Jocelyn Benson did not do anything to address the issues of election fraud.
Oh, of Jocelyn Benson.
Yes.
Okay, yes.
And so what would you have done if you'd been in her position in 2020? And what will you do going forward to make sure to address those things?
Okay. Well, the easiest answer to that question is that I will follow the law. She doesn't seem to want to do that. She also, in 2020, she was nowhere to be found on election night. I am going to be there in Detroit myself to make sure that everything is on the up and up. I said earlier, I'm not going to be circumventing the legislature. There will be no more JCAR committee, and we're not going to abide by those rules. But I am going to actually clean up our voter rolls, We actually are polling right now on if in fact I want to eliminate the qualified voter file altogether and start over, because it is such a disaster under Benson's rule. She has deleted voter history. Voter history is changing. How can that change? The answer is it can't. It's nefarious. She doesn't want the voter rolls to be cleaned up. She enrolled us in Eric to clean up the rolls. Well, guess what? They've gotten bigger. It's not doing the job. Her elections director, Jonathan Brader, has a signed contract with Rock the Vote. Well, it's not our job as Secretary of State to make sure that every single person is registered. It's to make sure that they are registered legally and that they have fair access to do so. So this proactive politicizing of the office has to end, and it will under my reign as Secretary of State. Thank you.
You have time, Amanda. You have time. Can you address the 2020 election and Jocelyn Benson's failure to act? Amanda.
Oh, what? I'm sorry.
Sorry. You still had 30 seconds left. Can you address the 2020 election and Jocelyn Benson's failure to act?
Yeah, well, like I said, I mean, she was nowhere to be found. So, I mean, anything else that I should hit on?
What would you have done that she didn't do?
Yeah, well, I would have been there. We would have followed the law, and we would have done a real forensic audit after the fact. We wouldn't have deleted all of the data like she did. We want to go back and we want to make sure that we don't make the same mistakes. Well, she's made that very difficult to do because she's deleted all the evidence and all the facts. So we're going to keep all of it. We're going to keep the records. There's nothing to hide.
Thank you very much, Monica.
Well, we know one thing for sure about 2020. We had some massive irregularities. And listen, it doesn't matter whether you believe that the election was stolen or that it wasn't stolen. The fact of the matter is this: those massive irregularities, they were never addressed. We had weak security, we had broken processes, we had ballots with missing information, and we had clerks getting incomplete data. We had Democrat poll watchers and election workers coming forward saying that they were asked to scan ballots multiple times. We had poll books, right, that weren't balancing, and we had our board of canvassers that was still certifying the election, even though the books were not balancing. So I can tell you what I would have done different. If I was Secretary of State, the board of canvassers would not be rubber stamping our elections. If the data isn't adding up, if our poll books are not balanced, we should never ever be certifying election. I want to talk about signature verification, because she wasn't doing that either. As your next Secretary of State, I'm going to make sure we're not only going to check for signature verification, we're going to double check it, and then we're going to triple check it. And anybody trying to commit voter fraud is not only going to be held accountable, but they're going to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Not only would I, be at the scene myself if it's necessary, I would bring in our state police, and I would work with them, and I would bring an inside team to check each location. Check each location and try to verify where the discrepancies are and address those discrepancies and then hold people accountable. As your next Secretary of State, we're not going to allow this to happen again. We're going to fix what happened in 2020 so that it never happens again. Because the fact that we have to question 2020 and ask about it 5 years later, that's a big problem. Right? And that's a problem that Jocelyn Benson left, and we're going to fix that when we get in there. We're going to make sure it never happens again. We're going to address all these issues. We're going to clean up our voter rolls. We're going to secure absentee ballots. And I will certainly never hand out absentee ballots like candy the way Jocelyn Benson did. If you want to vote, you have to show ID and you have to be a citizen to vote.
Seth.
We all saw the news this week. The FBI served a warrant in Fulton County, Georgia. And that warrant detailed a lot of materials that they were authorized to take with them if, in fact, those materials were there. Ballot images, any ballots that were there, voter rolls, which seems to be a common theme across all these battleground states. So imagine in the future, you are the Secretary of State of Michigan, and the FBI pulls up in Wayne County, or Macomb County, or any other hotbed of corruption in this state. How would you, not that I have an opinion, how would you, first off, one of the key things to notice about the raid was that the Fulton County authorities came out after all these years and said, well, now that the ballots are out of our possession, well, who knows what's going to happen to them? We had security here, now they're not secure. So how are you going to handle a situation like that? First, internally, leading your team, and then messaging to the public if that happens. Let's go with Amanda first.
Well, I think the best answer here is that that's not going to happen when I'm Secretary of State, because we are going to be abiding by every single law. But as my brochures say, the mailer that you should have gotten is I stand with ICE, and we absolutely need to support our president and the action that he's taking to right the wrongs that were so done to him in 2020. So, yes. But we need to absolutely get a handle on these mail-in ballots. I support Trump's efforts there, and we need to back him up. We need to show him our support, because back before 2016, we never had all this talk about disenfranchised voters and all this people that couldn't vote. No, it was an election day. You had to have a reason to have an absentee ballot, and that was it. So we need to go back to basics. We need to do paper ballots, one day, election day, and hand count. I mean, that's it. Now, I do have to give the caveat that this is in our Constitution now. So some of these changes are going to take either a ballot initiative or 2/3 of both the House and the Senate. So whichever way we have to do, we're going to get it done when I'm the Secretary of State. And if we have to do a ballot initiative, then so be it. Let's do it.
So hold on just a second. You got a follow-up for you, Amanda.
Okay.
You got a little bit of time left.
Oh.
What level of confidence do you have that Wayne County has valid records on hand?
0%. And I actually, a lot of you in this room have seen my presentation. I've seen ballot harvesting in Detroit since before 2018, back in 2017. If the precinct doesn't match, it can't be recounted. So explain to me how that makes sense. Back in 2017, none of them matched. 67% didn't match. We couldn't even check the validity of the election. So no, 0%.
Okay, thank you. Monica? No, she asked me to repeat the question. So if you were, and by the way, if you're the Secretary of State, the FBI rolls up to deal with a previous election, okay? Obviously, we're hoping that nothing like this would happen under either of you.
Right.
But if the FBI were to pull up in Wayne County or any other location in this state, looking to take records, ballots, ballot images, voter rolls, how would you handle it internally, leading your team, and then messaging this to the public, who of course is going to be very polarized on the news?
Got it. Well, I guess if I was Jocelyn Benson and this was happening, I'd probably run to another country. But if I'm not Jocelyn Benson and it was me, I would have nothing to worry about. But what I would say is this: I would fully cooperate with the investigation. I'd bring in my own internal cybersecurity team. I'd cooperate with the FBI, the DOJ, and whoever's involved to get them exactly what we need. But if I was the Secretary of State, we would keep it completely transparent, and every step of the way, the public would be apprised of exactly every single thing that we're doing, because transparency builds trust, and we want the public to know that we have nothing to hide. Unless, again, this is happening under Jocelyn Benson, then we have a lot of things to hide.
Well, hold on just a second.
Yeah.
I'm going to pull my Steve Bannon impersonation. Whoa, hold on. Can you wait for after the break?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna ask you the same thing I asked her. Yeah. What degree of confidence do you have that Wayne County would preserve any records that you would need, or the FBI would need to validate the elections there?
I have no confidence, because besides the fact that they're intentionally committing fraud, they're also intellectually inept. They don't know what they're doing. So I have zero confidence.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. John Eastman.
So following up a little bit on those, I'm not from Michigan, but the whole country witnessed in real time what was going on in TCF Center in the counting of ballots after the 2020 election. There were thousands of pages of sworn affidavits that were introduced in the Constantino case that just got shuffled under the rug, of illegality, of obstruction of observers, of preventing poll watchers from doing their jobs, and then blocking the windows so that the public couldn't see what the nefarious conduct going on there as well. None of the people that engaged in that illegal conduct of blocking the poll watchers from doing their jobs have ever been called to account. Now, I'm fully aware the Secretary of State's office doesn't have the criminal prosecution authority, but what would you do to try and hold people that engaged in that kind of illegal conduct then, or any such similar conduct going forward, to hold them accountable? Let me see, it goes first to Monica.
So in a situation like this, what I would have done is I would have immediately consulted with our state police, our local police, and our attorney general, so that if anybody gave me any difficulty about what the law actually was and what these poll challengers' rights were, we would be ready to credibly challenge them and preserve the rights of these poll challengers. And this is actually something that's a part of my platform. I want to champion a poll challenger and an election worker campaign Bill of Rights for this reason, and because of Rule Set 15. Are you familiar with Rule Set 15? So she's continuing to go after poll watchers' rights. So I would work with the Attorney General, local state police, make sure we reinstate their rights, and I would again champion this poll challenger Bill of Rights, because we need to establish the necessary rights and protections of our poll challengers and our poll watchers. Not enough people are talking about this, guys, and I want you to understand why it's so important to preserve the rights of these election workers. They are our last line of defense in these elections. They are our oversight. Without them, we have blind spots everywhere, and we would never be able to secure these elections. So I would absolutely challenge them, protect their rights, and make sure that if I was SOS back then, they would have gotten back into the building, and the people keeping them out would have been held accountable, and they would have been fully prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
Well, I think this is a good time to highlight that there is an Attorney General candidate in this room, Kevin Kieski, and it's so important that, where is he? So we need to work together hand in hand to make sure that these people are held accountable. And it's also a great time for me to discuss further my Election Integrity Special Investigations Unit. That is so important, and this is the reason why, because we cannot let these people off the hook, or it's going to keep happening, and it has kept happening. We think that it looks better now than it did in 2020. Maybe there's less applications being sent, maybe, but our voter rolls are worse than they were in 2020. We are not out of the woods, and it's still happening. So we are gonna absolutely hold these people accountable. If for some reason we do not get Attorney General in place, that's not the end of it. Prior secretaries of state have written opinions, and then the Attorney General didn't pick it up, and that was the end of the story. Not with me. We're gonna contact local police officers. My training program, all of the prosecutors and the sheriffs and the police officers are already gonna be trained in election law, so we're gonna call on them if the Attorney General doesn't comply, and if that fails to work, then we're gonna call in the DOJ. We are not gonna stop. If I have to go there myself, call the media, whatever it takes, they are going to be held accountable. Thank you.
So based on your experience that you've laid out here, I think it's fair to say we can agree that neither of you are computer programmers, right? You don't speak code. So it's also fair to say that 99% of election and poll workers don't speak code. So how can anyone in any election site anywhere certify an election that is written in a language nobody speaks?
That's a great question.
Is it me?
Sure, Amanda.
Okay. Well, the answer is that it can't. And if you've seen what I've seen coming out of some of these machines in Korean, strange languages, it's very, very concerning. As was mentioned previously, the Board of Canvassers, unfortunately, have just become kind of a rubber stamp. And so we really want to make sure that their rights are actually being heard. They are actually supposed to issue a written opinion after every election. Most people don't know that because it's not being done. So we want to make sure that we are empowering the canvassers, and we also want to decentralizing the Secretaries of State's office and giving more power to the local clerks. They are the ones that are supposed to be responsible for keeping up with the qualified voter file. But their rights are not being acknowledged. And I'm hearing stories from across the whole state that if they do remove somebody because they have a death certificate in hand, ERIC is actually coming, the system, Electronic Registration Information Center, I think it was said incorrectly earlier, that is getting actually added back on. So it's corrupt, we're gonna get out of that, and we're gonna empower our local officials and our Board of Canvassers. Thank you.
Amanda, sorry, you still have time. I still want to understand, every single person, in a sense, that is certifying an election result, that they have no idea if that result is correct or not. Every single one of them is guilty of fraud. There's not a single person involved in this process that actually looks at the code and is able to speak it. We tell voters that, here we have paper ballots, and then we put it in a machine that spits out a QR code. What does that QR code say? Who verifies what that QR code matches what the voter just put down? Nobody.
Well, that's why it's such a huge issue, because according to our opinion, every Board of Canvasser is committing a misdemeanor every time they certify an election. That's huge. People don't want to hear that. I don't think it's intentional by them, but we need to, these machines, there's 3 machine companies that are valid here in the state of Michigan, according to the Secretary of State, and none of them, in my opinion, passed the smell check. So we're going to change that. Well, yep. We need legislative approval, but you can guarantee I'm going to suggest that, and I already have. So
thank you.
That's the answer.
Monica.
All right, so Lara, I agree with you. It's a very broken process. And I think the next Secretary of State needs to come in and set really clear statewide standards and completely overhaul the training apparatus for our clerks, for our election workers, and who should actually be involved in overseeing these things, because there should be somebody at every single precinct or at the head of every county that at least has the technical and the IT expertise and experience to be able to read the language and everything that you're talking about. So I think what it's going to take, again, is coming in and setting clear statewide standards across the state that every clerk can abide by so we can all be on the same page. But also it's going to come down to the training, because right now, a lot of the issue, yeah, it's voter fraud, there's a lot of fraud, but a lot of it is because our election workers are not trained properly. So we need to set a very high standard and make sure it's a uniform standard so we can get our clerks on the same page, get them the support that they need with the training, but make sure that we're training people accordingly so that they can read the language that they need to read. And when we do go certify election results, we have the people with the right knowledge, with the know-how in the background, and again, that technical and that IT expertise that as the Secretary of State, I'd be able to bring in when I bring in new people and hire new people.
So are you going to train your election workers to speak computer code? That's the language we're talking about.
Yeah, no, but I would bring in the people that speak computer code, right? So people with technical experience, the IT experience, cybersecurity experience, to assist these people.
Unless they have access to the code, they can't check it.
Unless, one more time, sorry.
Unless they have access to the code, they can't check it.
No, they can't.
So right now they don't have access to the code. Nobody does. No one who certifies an election has access to that code.
Okay, so we need to get them access to that code.
Thank you.
Yep.
Oh, I forgot. Wait, Seth, you.
All right, can we have the video of Anthony Forlini discussing Stephanie Lambert ready to roll?
Clerk, so we won't have the whole book. But let me just tell you something really quick.
So we'd like to play this video, and then Seth will answer a question. We'll ask.
So let's, we have a video of Anthony Forlini discussing, who knows who Stephanie Lambert is?
With a few other people. She wanted to make a copy of my sermon.
All right, can we pause the video here for just a second?
2 days before an election.
All right. So Stephanie Lambert is an attorney in Michigan who's been investigating election corruption dating back to the 2020 election. She has fallen under the wrath of the Attorney General, Dana Nessel. And as attorneys general in Democrat-run states tend to do, they're looking to run her into the ocean, basically. So there was a video that was taken of Anthony Forlini discussing any association with Stephanie Lambert. We're going to play that video here.
Clerk, so we don't have the whole book. But let me just tell you something really quick, a quick story. Stephanie Lambert, who is the person that was involved in getting Stephanie Scott to do this, came to my office on a Saturday with a few other people. She wanted to make a copy of my server, of the county server, 2 days before an election. First off, she's not going to get a copy of it. That's unlawful. And nor is she going to put a foreign object into my server and grab that information. Her willingness to break the law doesn't apply well for anybody. Doesn't apply well for us.
All right, so this is not a gotcha question. There is no right or wrong answer on this. This is an honest inquiry. And so first off, we're going to go with Monica first on this one. How do you feel about his comments about Lambert and her activities? Are they illegal activities? Do you feel that he is sincere in his efforts to pursue election integrity based on what you heard there?
No, I don't think the efforts are sincere, but I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know enough about Stephanie Lambert, and I don't know if she asked for the computer server. If she did, I understand that's considered proprietary information, right? So she couldn't get access to it. I don't know. Are you a lawyer? No. Okay. I'm not either. I'll just say this. I don't know what happened. I don't know what didn't happen. I was there when he did say this. So I can't speak on behalf of it too much. What I can say is if she was asking for proprietary information, it is illegal to give it to her. He also, it wasn't in the clip, he also mentioned, we talked about Stephanie Scott as well, who was a clerk, who's also now kind of going through the same experience. Stephanie Scott was asked to delete her poll book information after 7 days, just like the rest of the clerks across the state. And what I can say is that she is the only clerk who had the backbone to stand up and say, no, I'm not violating federal law. And so he didn't agree with that, but I do.
Oh, can you hear me? Yep. Okay, so I wish that we could actually watch that whole clip because I'm the one who called out Anthony Forlini on that question, and that's the reason that he rebutted, and he doubled down on his answer. And the reason that I did call him out was because I don't agree. But as my opponent stated, I am not a lawyer, but my legal work within the Attorney General's office, that is my opinion. My opponent also in the forum earlier got the name wrong when asked about it, and doesn't really know a lot about this because I'm the only one who actually reached out to Stephanie Scott before I decided to run for Secretary of State, and her Republican base has essentially abandoned her. And that was not true about the 7 days. This happened well before that rule change. So this was actually just abiding by the federal requirement of 22 months. So she wanted to hold on to that data for that amount of time, and she wouldn't hand over the machine. Like I said, she was completely abandoned by our party. So that's why I asked Forlini, as a clerk, have you stood up for her? And this was his answer right there. So I disagree clearly. That's why I called him out. And I think that as a party, as a Republican Party, if somebody's in trouble, we need to get behind them, we need to back them up, and we need to unify together and stick together.
All right, so just so you guys know, we would have asked that question if Anthony would have been here too. This is an important and divisive topic in Michigan, and that's going to be something that's going to be making its way as this campaign goes on through the press. So, thank you.
John.
So I'm a big fan of the Declaration of Independence, if you haven't figured that out by now. The very first sentence says, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them to another. That sets up at the very first sentence of our founding document the distinction between citizens and non-citizens. There's a lot of people that say there's no such problem with non-citizen voting, partly because they don't want to look. But I've looked at your bills that have been proposed in the legislature this last year, and I see a half a dozen bills trying to insist that citizenship be required in order to vote, that proof of citizenship be mandated so that we can confirm whether you're a citizen or not, even a proposed constitutional amendment to require citizenship to be eligible to vote. This seems rather critical for the consent of the governed of one people as distinct from all the other peoples in the world. What would you do to try and urge that those laws be passed to confirm citizenship, but also to make sure that the people are on our existing voter rolls and even voting are in fact citizens.
So I'm glad this got brought up because we absolutely knew this was a huge problem going in, and I'm the person that introduced the solution of the pink licenses. So the reason for that is because we need to cross-reference our voter rolls with Social Security numbers. That's first and foremost, with the Department of Homeland Security's records. So we are gonna find on there that some don't have them. So if they are here illegally, they are going to be reported immediately to ICE and hopefully get deported. Now, if they are here legally, thank you. If they are here legally and they want a license to drive, that is okay. But first and foremost, they need to learn how to speak and read English. They also need to make sure that their license expires the same time that their visa expires. That's very important too. And the reason that they are pink or a different color is the same logic as an under 21 person that gets a driver's license. It's vertical. That's so the bartender can know immediately not to serve them alcohol. Well, that's why we need to identify the non-citizens so that they cannot vote, they cannot register same day. That's how a lot of these legal immigrants are getting on our voter rolls, is because people think that a license to drive is the same as citizenship, and it's not. So we need to just very simply clarify that for everybody. It's very common sense, and that's kind of the idea around my campaign. This is common sense issues. If you're here illegally, under no circumstance are you on the voter rolls. And this is another problem with Eric too, and why we need to just completely withdraw. I know I keep saying it, but it's so important because we are sending them every 60 days our driver's license data and our voter roll data, and they're getting intertwined and they're ending up on our voter rolls.
The pink driver's license idea it's a great idea, but there's a reason why there's not a single Secretary of State across the United States of America that has done it. It's because it violates the Equal Protection Clause of our United States Constitution. You cannot discriminate against a class of people for being a non-citizen. That's why all our driver's licenses are the same color. What you can do in the restrictions box is make sure that the note and the writing in there is very clear, right? We have that right now. LT stands for limited term. These are for non-citizens, but the problem is that it's really small. So we can make it bigger, we can make it bolder, we can make it brighter. That is legal. The other thing that we can do, I mentioned this earlier, is retrain our election workers to look for these things on driver's licenses. If we supply the proper training, they won't miss this. But even more importantly, if you want to vote in our elections, guys, our elections are a critical infrastructure of our state. I don't know how many people know this. Critical infrastructure like water, like electricity, okay, this is a big deal. So any non-citizen trying to vote in our elections, that's voter fraud. Anybody trying to interfere in our elections, that is an act of war, okay? So we need to clean it up. If you want to vote in our elections, you need to show proof of ID, and you need to show that you are a United States citizen. Okay, we're going to clean up the voter rolls as originally presented by me, and I've been saying this since September. We take Michigan out of ERIC, and we cross-check these rolls with a federal database that's accurate and secure, the Department of Homeland Security's database, because it gives us social security numbers, it gives us date of birth, and the information that we need to clean up these rolls. And so if we can do these things, we can secure our elections, and we can keep non-citizens from voting, but even more importantly, right now, Michigan is an automatic registration state, so when you go get a driver's license, you're automatically being registered to vote. Well, when I become your next Secretary of State, that stops. We're not going to opt out. We're going to have to opt in.
Okay, just one point of order for a factual issue. Non-citizens do not have rights under the Constitution, so you can't discriminate against them. So the Constitution doesn't apply. But that's just a point of fact. Okay. So moving on now, we have now completed the first round of 2-minute answers, and we are going to the first lightning round with 30-second answers. There'll be one question from each moderator for that. So the first question is, Jocelyn Benson has so far refused to comply with Department of Justice request to hand over records. The House in Michigan had to pass Resolution HR 196 just to try to get her to comply. I would like to know, if elected Secretary of State, how long will it take you to comply with that order, if elected? And what are the options there for holding her accountable for her failure? 30 seconds. And Monica, do you want to begin?
Yeah, I don't mind, but can you just repeat it one more time? I'm sorry. I just
Yes,
blinked
sure.
for a second.
Jocelyn Benson has been ordered to hand over records by the Department of Justice, and she has so far refused to comply, to the point where the House in Michigan actually met and passed a resolution, HR 196, ordering her to comply. She has still refused to comply. So, question is, would you comply, obviously, if elected, and what would you do to hold her accountable for her failure to comply?
Yeah, so if I was Secretary of State, I would 100% comply immediately, no questions asked. I would never fight the government, and I would always uphold and defend our Constitution and its laws. So there'd be complete transparency. And as far as holding her accountable, it's been really difficult right now. I know the Department of Justice has stepped in, but it's been difficult because we have a Democrat activist, Attorney General, who's not helping us in any way. Our state legislature is divided, so it's more difficult to get anything done. But I think as far as holding her accountable, if I was in a position to do so, I would consult our Attorney General to do that.
Thank you. Amanda.
So very quickly, I would comply immediately, but it wouldn't get to that point. The brilliance of the legislature doing that is because she's in direct violation now of the state of Michigan. So we can actually make sure that she's held accountable here in the state of Michigan because she violated it federally, but now she's violated it statewide. So thank you to the Speaker of the House for doing that, because now we can hold her accountable here in the state of Michigan. Also, I want to use my last second to say that it's not against any violation to change the color of a license. I'm just the only Secretary of State that has the guts to do it.
Yes.
So we've talked about voter registration a little bit. Amanda, in her introduction, mentioned withdrawal from ERIC, which is a good start. But voter registration seems to be a common theme across the entire United States as a problem. Recently, there's a lawsuit successful in Oregon that's going to remove 800,000 voters from the voter rolls. In Los Angeles County, California, a few years ago, there were hundreds of thousands of voters removed from the voter rolls. In states that have party registration, which Michigan does not, this seems to only impact the Democratic Party. But with that said, 83% of Michigan's total population 3 months before the 2024 election was registered to vote, 83%. Does anybody know what the problem with that is? Less than 78% of any population is over the age of 18 and therefore eligible to vote. And we're talking at least 500,000 more registered voters than can mathematically possibly be registered if maximum participation was happening. So with that said, if you become Secretary of State, what will you do to begin the process of cleaning these filthy voter rolls? Because a lot of people give lip service to that, but getting it done has been a difficult task. And how closely tied do you believe this is to automatic voter registration?
So, yes, it is completely inflated, and it's mathematically impossible. So the fact that we're letting this go on is ridiculous to me. And what the Secretary of State here in Michigan's had to do is, because it's so off with voter turnout percentages, that she's had to change the formula so that you are only counting active voters in your voter turnout count, because otherwise the turnout would be so low that it wouldn't make sense. So we need to absolutely, oh, I forgot this was 30 seconds. I'm sorry.
Monica.
So I would strengthen real-time validation of online forms for people that are going online to register to vote. Also, obviously, cleaning up the rolls. I mentioned this earlier, cross-checking them with a federal database, but doing rapid cross-checking if we needed it before an election with, our DMV records, Social Security records, vital records. But more importantly, like I said, when someone's going to get a driver's license, no more automatic registration, right? You have to opt in, not opt out. We're going to stop doing that. And as far as permanent absentee voter list, no more of that either. You have to show ID and proof of citizenship if you want to get an absentee ballot.
Thank you. John.
Well, we spent a lot of time talking about how corrupt the voter rolls are, how illegal the conduct of election workers are in some parts of the state, how the destruction of voter data within 7 days makes it almost impossible to do audits after the fact. All of that's still in place for the coming election. Without revealing your internal campaign strategies, how do you plan win the election with all of that existing stuff in place?
Yeah.
Monica.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to start by saying a Hail Mary, because we're going to need it. Also, just been in talks with Harmeet Dillon and the DOJ because we need their help in this election. We're not going to be able to do it on our own, unfortunately. But the other thing, too, is I'm going to do what I know, what I did during the 24 election with my C4. I'm going to go out, and we're going to raise the money, and we're going to have a very high-end get-out-the-vote operation. Door knockers, phone bankers, people registering voters across the state. And we're going to go out there, and we're going to chase those ballots, and we're going to do the work. And we're going to get people out to vote, because if we get our base out to vote, we win every single time, and we're going to win in 26.
Amanda, 30 seconds.
Okay, thank you. So I'm a campaign strategist. I've been doing it for 20 years. So I am absolutely going to get it done. And a key here is that we're actually going to have an advantage because in the city of Detroit, with Duggan on the race, we're not going to have as much straight ticket Democrats on. So there's actually going to be a lot of drop off with the Democrats. But with that being said, we need to absolutely activate the base. I speak the language of the youth. I know the issues. I have the experience, and I'm going to use Lance Griffin's 10x voting system to get out those low propensity voters. Without Trump on the ballot, we need to get them to the polls.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, ladies. So for this next one, because it's a yes or no answer, so it really is a yes or no answer, would you prefer to be sitting or would you like to stand?
Stand?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, so if you stand, and then what we're going to do is, I hope it's not too complicated, but we just want it to be fair. There's 10 questions, so each of you have a chance to be first 5 times and second 5 times. Because obviously the person who's not answering first has got a moment more. It's minimal. Are you following?
I don't mind either way. Yeah.
You don't mind either way?
I don't mind either way.
Okay. Well, in that case, Amanda, you get to answer every time.
All right.
You get to go first.
All right.
Monica, you go second. If you want to switch off to 5 questions, we can do that. Just let us know.
Sure. Okay.
So, for the very first part of this question, right? So it's just yes or no answer of this round. Secretary Benson, contrary to law, sent out absentee votes. Do you think she intentionally mailed millions of absentee ballot implications to benefit her party and elect an order pin to the White Office, to the Oval Office?
Yes.
Yes.
I think these are going to be easy.
Should we be able to count ballots that arrive after the close of polls on Election Day?
No.
Let me make sure you guys can hear me. No.
Other than overseas military, do you support?
Oh.
Other than overseas military, do you support mail-in voting, yes or no?
No.
Nope.
Would you get rid of the machines?
Yes.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Very serious question here, so make sure you make a careful answer. Is Captain Seth Keshel the best looking man in election integrity?
Yes.
Sorry, I misread my own handwriting. Look.
Order.
Do you think the Michigan Republican Party has let its members down with regard to election integrity?
Yes.
Yes. Say yes. Oh, yes. Big time. Yeah.
Secretary Benson issued a directive saying that the county clerk should presume the validity of signatures. Would you repeal that directive?
Yes.
Yes.
Have you taken foreign money for your campaign?
No.
No.
Last year, Michigan voters shot down ranked choice voting. Do you support that decision?
Well, that's not true, but yes.
Yes.
Would you like to elaborate on that one?
You said that Michigan voters rejected it, but we didn't actually vote on it. It just, they failed to get the signatures, so it was never on the
Ranked
ballot.
choice voting failed in Michigan last year. Are you happy that happened?
I'm ecstatic. Sorry, I know I'm not supposed to go first.
What was the?
Are we
So
happy
I
that
just
it failed?
rephrased.
Oh, yes.
They answered
yes. I'm happy it failed. Yes.
Should voters required to present ID before they can be allowed to vote?
Yes, and no provisional ballots being counted on the
Yes
same
and
day.
no, please.
Oh, yes, 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 yes.
Yes.
Are the rhinos a greater threat to secure elections in Michigan than the Democrats? Yes or no?
Sorry,
I didn't get the question, sorry.
Are the rhinos in your party a greater threat to secure elections in Michigan than the Democrats?
Yes. Yes.
They're the same, in my opinion.
It's yes or no?
I guess no. I mean, yeah. I mean, they're the same. I don't know. It's not fair.
Easy
They're
yes.
one and the same. But yes, I'll say yes because that's what you got to hear.
Okay, that concludes our debate, ladies. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. I just really want to say thank you to both of you for standing up here, for putting yourselves up, for putting the time that it takes to run. It takes a lot, we know, away from your families, away from your personal time. It means a lot. This is a very important position. So thank you both very, very much. So what we're going to do now is we're going to have Tom Renz, who's about as subtle as a bull in a china shop. We're going to have Tom Renz come out. And he's, for those of you who want to stay, Tom Renz will run quickly down the stage to just get a comment from everybody on stage, ask a question. The candidates are welcome to stay and talk to Tom if they would like. No. Since when? That was not on the call. I did not authorize that. Wait, if you would like to.
Yes, a 3-minute close.
2.
3. Yeah, 3 minutes.
That was not agreed. Did you time a 3-minute close?
Closing statement, yeah.
Okay, are you okay with that? Because that was not a.
If you don't want to do it, I'm fine. I think that I performed well enough for these people to make a well-informed decision, so I'm okay with whatever you decide. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So it's in the rules, but not discussed. I like solid ground, not squishy ground. Okay, so Monica, you are more than welcome to take 3 minutes as well.
Okay.
Amanda, you can start with your prepared remarks.
Yes, this was very important for me to do because of the abhorrent attack that came out about my family earlier today. So I wrote it down. So this is a serious race, and the stakes could not be higher. The Democrats just spent millions of dollars on a write-in candidate in Dearborn to install their preferred clerk. That tells you everything you need to know. They do not want a Republican Secretary of State in the swing state of Michigan. They are ruthless, and they truly believe the end justifies the means. So we don't need somebody untested. We need someone battle-tested, someone who will not be fazed by the onslaught that is coming. I won my seat on the Clarkston School Board with an unapologetic anti-DEI platform years before President Trump was able to eradicate the agenda on the federal level. I was called every name in the book, I endured threats, I was followed home by leftist activists, my signs were vandalized, and through it all, I never buckled. In fact, it only hardened my resolve to fight harder and stronger. That quiet strength didn't come from nowhere. It was forged by my life. I was not born with the silver spoon in my mouth. I've had to fight for everything that I have. When I was younger, I found myself in a bad situation, and under immense pressure and faced with an impossible decision, I chose life. And it was the greatest decision I've ever made. When God blessed me with my son, who is here, and I watched him struggle with his special needs diagnosis, that experience led me to open my heart and my home as a single mother to children who needed me to fight for them too. So one of my foster daughters lived with me from the time she was 6 months old till she was 3. The day I was supposed to adopt her, the court shut down due to a snowstorm. So 3 months later, the state unexpectedly returned her to her biological mother, who she'd never known, kicking and screaming because she was put on methadone. She's a drug addict, still was, the mother. So that was devastating, but I did not give up. At 30 years old, I gave my life to Christ and was baptized at the Mount Zion Church. After that, God blessed me with 3 beautiful children in 1 year, and I saw his plan unfold in my life. So this race is in his hands. I believe he has already chosen the winner, and he gives me the peace to stay calm under fire, to never waver, and to lead with confidence and poise. I am the battle-tested leader that this state needs to restore election integrity and make our system work. I will not get rattled. I will remain steadfast through this campaign and through my term, because the future of our state and our country depends on it. I want to personally say that I will never mudsling in this race. I would like my son, who's getting attacked at the age of 14, to stand up, and I want to acknowledge him for being my little boy, my little miracle. So again, I'm Amanda Love, and I humbly ask for your vote March 28th. Thank you.
Monica.
So I'm the only candidate in this race that has not worked for the government for the last 15 or 20 years and been a part of the Lansing Swamp or the very broken process that we're up here talking about fixing. I also have experience in fraud and in compliance. I'm a CEO. I know how to run a large operation. I know how to do it efficiently. I know how to do it successfully, because the Secretary of State is going to be your next chief election officer of this state. Not only do they need the skill set and the experience to get this job done, but they have to have the ability to have a strong backbone to be able to hold people accountable when it's really hard. That's something I do daily in my work. And the most important thing we're going to be able to do in this role, first 100 days, guys, we're going to do a full forensic audit of this entire office of the last 8 years. I have ran independent, successful audits before. It's not a theory for me. It's my daily reality in my work. And what I can tell you guys is when we find out who's been undermining our elections, we're going to hold them accountable. And I have the backbone to make sure that I work with the Attorney General to prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law. But not only that, we're going to find the waste, we're going to find the fraud, and we're going to find the abuse, and we're going to fix it all, and we're going to clean it all up. Because the budget right now in the Secretary of State's office is extremely bloated at about $296 million. So we need somebody who understands operational efficiency and how to clean these budgets up. So I come to you guys and I bring that business leadership and I bring that outside view. I have not been a part of the broken government process that we have been seeing, right? I bring that grassroots advocacy. In 22, when there was a complete blue sweep, I ran multiple school board elections across the state and won almost every single one. Why? Because we were organized, we were strategic, and we knew how to raise money. We're going to bring that same exact thing to the 2026 general election, because Trump is not on the ballot. Nobody's coming to save us, guys. We need a candidate that can raise funds, that can bring the operation to win. I have a team ready to go to knock doors, to make phone calls, and to register voters and to turn out our base. We need a candidate that can bring voters and excite new voters, not just our base voters. So I humbly ask for your support and your vote at the convention today. If you'd like to join the movement, it's monicaformichigan.com. And I thank all of you guys for your time today. God bless each and every one of you.
Thank you both so much. Tom Renz is going to come on stage to just ask a couple questions for the live broadcast. You are welcome to stay and take his questions. If you don't want to, you're under no obligation. And Tom, move your ass. Come on, let's go. Chip chop. Seriously, how many times do I have to say it? Go, go, go. He's my attorney.
We can all ask ourselves whether I do a good job on that or not, but I try to be your attorney. Okay, ladies, you guys did great. Thank you for being here. One of the things you guys both opened with, and I think this is really relevant for the base, is you both opened with your Christian background. You both talked about the fact that you're here to serve. I think as we look forward, one of the things that's really critical that I know I care about as a hardcore mega base type guy is the strength to stand on principle, even over party. Now, there was a yes-no question here, and I know this is uncomfortable, especially in the Republican space, right? But we've seen trouble with the rhinos everywhere. I would really want to know how we're going to stand. How can we unify our party, and how are you going to work towards that to really ensure that we can come together on the Republican side to support mega principles that our base has fought for, that I'm guessing many out here have fought for. I don't care. By the way, this isn't debate, right? This isn't interviews. There's no right or wrong. Just want to get your opinions and get to know you guys a little bit better.
Okay. Yes, well, rhinos are a big reason as to why I'm running, because I've helped a lot of them get elected. It takes about 3 years. They come back from Lansing or DC. It's almost as though their soul gets sucked out from their eyes. I know that sounds a little weird, but it's true. I've seen it happen too many times. And I'm done with that. We need to make serious changes. These election laws that have been broken have created such an astronomical mess that we absolutely cannot afford a go-along, get-along personality as our next Secretary of State. Just because you have an R next to your name doesn't mean you're going to do the work. So I absolutely am going to fight. I think I have an advantage because I'm the only one that can openly say I have no aspirations to be governor. I've heard my opponent say that she does. There's nothing wrong with that. But what happens is that you can be a slave to the special interests. You can be bought off. You can, the big money, APAC, whatever it may be, they can own you. Well, that's not going to happen with me. I'm going to make the changes, even if I'm a one-termer. I'm okay with that. And I'm going to go home to my family, and they're going to have a fair election system to grow up in. I think that my opponent also, I had a lot of friends that worked for GEI, and I helped them knock doors one day, and it said on the literature that GEI gave to them, funded by Michigan Freedom Fund. Well, if anybody in this room knows, Michigan Freedom Fund is actually funded by the DeVosses. So that's not somebody that I want to necessarily behoove my race to, and I think that that's very concerning that my opponent does. So I think that I bring a lot of value to my position that I want to be Secretary of State to clean up our rolls, get the illegals out of here, and then I'm going to go home to my family. Thank you.
I think my thing works. I'm good. There you go. So I was under the impression this was an opportunity to answer about principles. I didn't realize it was about taking cheap shots on our opponents, especially ones that were untrue. Aspirations to run for governor, thank you, I'm honored. I've never said that before. I have zero aspirations, and I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. Let's start there. I ran GEI, the Great Education Initiative. Our pamphlets said no such thing on the bottom of them. What I can tell you is because of my experience working with other vendors across the state, we did work with Michigan Freedom Fund. We carried their literature for conservative candidates to help them win. We carried our own lit, they carried theirs. There is nothing about GEI that was paid by the Michigan Freedom Fund or by the DeVosses. I want to make that extremely clear. That was completely misrepresented and that was complete misinformation. And I'll say this about principles. When I get up here and when I become your Secretary of State, I will bring the highest integrity. And when my tongue speaks, I will tell you guys nothing but the truth. Everything will be transparent for you and it will be honest. And as far as principles, we have to start electing people with a moral compass and that have God on their hearts and on their minds so that they cannot be corrupted, so that they cannot be bought. That is the reason I am standing up here today and running. I didn't have to do this, guys, but I'm here because I care, because I want this for my kids. And we have to stop when I say that I'm principled, and when I say that I will uphold everything fully, or I'll defend our Constitution, I'll defend our laws and our principles. That means if a Republican is committing voter fraud or breaking any laws, guess what, guys? They're going to be held accountable too, and they're going to be fully prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. And that's where I stand on MAGA principles. Thanks, guys.
I got to come to the panel now? Laura's in charge, so I mean, if she's telling me to go to the panel, can I ask them one more question? Just one more, because I want one more, because I think it's really important. This is a personal question. This is a brutal job. Running for anything sucks. You're going to get attacked by your friends. You're going to get attacked by your enemies. You're going to get attacked by everybody. And there is no right answer, as you're, as you can tell, standing here. What drives you, ladies? What's the reason that you're running for this? This is a short answer. I just want to know, and I want people to understand, what's the motivation? Why are you here? Why are you doing this? Last question. I don't care who goes first.
Oh, you want me to go?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I've said it many times, definitely my children. I don't want them growing up in a state where an illegal alien's vote counts just as much as theirs does. So they are my motivation. I think I'm uniquely qualified to be your next Secretary of State. And we need somebody in there who's going to do the job, who has the guts to do the job and to make the changes necessary. And I think I've proved tonight that I'm that person. I'm battle tested, and I'm going to get the job done. And my motivation is pure. It's my children, it's integrity, transparency, and accountability. Thank you.
Some of you might know this already, but I'm first generation Iraqi American, born and raised here. My parents came here from Iraq to flee religious persecution. They were heavily persecuted for their Christian faith. What I can tell you guys is that we don't want Iraqi-style elections in the United States of America. And I can tell you guys that a lot of the things that we're seeing today and the government overreach that we're seeing today is exactly why my parents left Iraq to come here. My parents kiss the ground that we walk on, and we appreciate everything that we have and everything we've been able to build until this day. My parents came here, they worked hard, and they achieved the American dream, and then they took that opportunity and they passed it down to me and my sisters. The first time that I became concerned that I couldn't take that same opportunity and pass it down to my kids, that's when I got involved. And that's why I'm running today, because I can tell you guys this much. If we don't have secure elections, then we do not have anything at all. And so that is why I've stepped up to run.
Great job, ladies. Oh, here comes Captain K. Now, I was worried. I thought Seth was hiding. We've got a charity bench off coming up, and I figured he's out doing push-ups to get ready for it.
Sun returns.
I'm good. Seth.
Look at that, I got Bernadette Smith water. For Senate.
There you go, you got her face on it. Seth, you've been a hero in this, man. You've been fighting this forever. By the way, Seth and I are friends, so I'm giving him softball. But no, I mean,
Don't
listen.
do that.
Well, okay, maybe not too. Seth, you've been fighting this 5-6 years now. You've kind of risen to the top, and by the way, probably the most accurate election expert in the country. Really, honestly, no kidding. How are you keeping it up, brother? Tell me about the fame and the glory that you're getting. I want people to hear a little bit, because I don't think that people understand what it means to fight back. It's brutal. And I'm going to ask something similar of all three of you. The fight back, for those of us that did it, medical tyranny, election fraud, it's brutal. We get told we're grifters, we get told we're rich, we're famous, we're doing this for all these different things. Dr. Eastman's one of the very few that's been able to stand in the election space, keep his license, and still do all the things he's doing. Seth Keshel's one of the very few that has stood in the election analysis space, and really his results are above reproach. Lara has fought in the journalism space and been able to maintain integrity in journalism, which is almost unheard of. So Seth, you first, man. Talk to me about it.
So it's an interesting question that's a bit off the track of stats and election fixes, but it's really relevant to my life, because in 2020, I was dealing with the same thing everyone else was. My livelihood was disrupted. I was used to traveling and selling technologies in the transportation industry, but I had a knack for statistics and forecasting and modeling elections. It was a hobby for me in 2016 when I did the same thing then that I did last year. People that didn't believe that I got 2016 right got to live through it in 2024 when I threw it right in the New York Times' face. So, but what I will say, this isn't to pump myself up or advertise myself. By the way, please subscribe at captainkate.us. So, you have all of you in the room have one unique talent in which you do it better than everyone else you know. You may not have discovered that yet, but you've got it. And I used to be told, so I've got a book coming out in March, The American War on Election Corruption, with the foreword by Newt Gingrich. And that's coming out in March. And it's going to chapter 1 is called Useless Knowledge. I grew up a fat kid with no confidence. And I couldn't make my high school baseball team, but I was always told I had useless knowledge. And then one day I modeled it into something that can help shape elections. So what I mean by that is I got pulled into the election integrity movement in November of 2020, right after the election blew up, because I knew, like Laura told a crowd in Fredericksburg, Texas one time in 2023, that what I saw was a lie, and I knew it. And I could not, just like these candidates said, I could not stomach to live in a country in which our process of making peaceful change was gone, completely gone. And after about 6 months, when the election integrity world came to be, the analysis I do is easy to relate to and easy to pass forward. And the President of the United States, well, the current President of the United States, he was out of office at the time, pushed me out there in the spotlight. And I didn't ask for it, but my world changed. So anybody here in the room is one presidential retweet away from your life changing, in a way that you never would have imagined, and it will change your life. And my life has had a lot of ups and downs in the last 5 years. Shortly after, now I'm cool talking about this, but shortly after I became a big name in election integrity, I started going through a divorce. Fate would have it, God would have it, that I wound up being remarried. And I am the first gentleman of Arizona's 17th legislative district today. But, I've been able to meet a lot of people like Tom, like John, like Laura, like Mitch down there in the front row, like Bernadette, who have really done a great job in being where they are, because we lack people all across this country that are willing to step into the fight without the notoriety, because a lot of people are obsessed with clicks and and fame and videos. And some people don't know what that's going to entail in your life. I mean, Laura could tell you stories 100 times more intense than anything I've ever been through. So getting notoriety can change your life in good and bad ways. But all of you are supposed to be making a difference rather than sitting around on X complaining and listening to an algorithm tell you what to think. I think I'm really fed up with that.
Dr. Eastman, you're still on your feet. One of the very few election guys doing this.
You know, they picked the wrong guy to pick on when they went after me. I got asked by a reporter if I would accept a plea bargain down in Georgia if they offered it to me and turn state's evidence against President Trump. I said, there are a few problems with that. One, I have no state's evidence to turn against President Trump because we didn't do anything wrong. Second, I said, yeah, maybe I'd consider a plea bargain. You drop all the charges against me and I won't bring a malicious prosecution suit against you. And third, but I'd be happy to testify on behalf of any of the other defendants because none of them did anything wrong either. And we're not stopping until we win this fight. And on the day before Thanksgiving, the case against President Trump and me and all the electors down in Georgia was dismissed because it was fraudulent from the get-go. And there are now motions for attorney's fees against Fani Willis for $17 million collective. Now all we got to do is get the Attorney General of Arizona to understand that she's in the same type of pickle. And but look, courage is courageous. And when I stand up for this stuff, thousands of other people say we can stand up too. And that's what it's going to take to preserve the great republic that we inherited from our forebears and be able to pass it on to our kids and grandkids.
Thank you. So I got to give this to Laura. They told me we got to be fast. So I'm rambling too much. That happens, right? So we're gonna quickly hand this to Laura. Laura, you've managed to maintain your integrity. You literally, which in journalism is next to impossible, especially for a big name that's established. But you've also managed to share truth. Tell us a little bit.
It's not really optional. I just don't look at it as if it's optional. So I feel a little bit guilty taking credit for that because to me, I was programmed to do that. And in fact, my mother used to say to me sometimes, she's like, for goodness sake, child, could you just say what I want to hear for once in your life? instead of arguing about everything. But you know, that was I was fortunate enough that a lot of those considerations that people wrestle over something, you know, what is the right answer? I know in my heart and in my soul what is right and what is wrong, and I try to do the right thing for the right reasons. As my kids know, if you come and snitch on someone, Mom, I'm just being honest. I say, but why? Are you being honest to get this person in trouble? Then get out of here. I don't want to hear it. Do the right thing for the right reasons, and leave the rest to God and hope for the best.
All right. So real quick, I'm going to tell you why I asked these questions. I was looking at the comments online, and people were asking. I wanted you to hear, first of all, a little bit personal from the ladies, because I think it's critical that we know who they are. And great job, ladies. I wish you both the best. I also wanted to, for the panel, I wanted people to hear a little bit about the panel. And the reason that's important. They're dropping me.
Down on the bottom. Touch on the bottom.
Dropping me hints. I've been there with these guys while they've been fighting. I see what they've gone through. The questions that got asked were tough, but they were fair. And the reason they were asked was because these warriors have fought. They know what it means. Secretary of State for Michigan is one of the most important positions in this country. Michigan is one of the seminal 4 states that we have to win this election. Okay, so this is critical. And we cannot. Michigan was a red state forever. It's only gone blue with corruption. We've got to fight back. We've got to make sure that the Secretary of State in this state is willing to fight. And we don't get that by asking softball questions. We want to know that these people are going to stand for us, that they're going to stand in the fire, that they're not going to sell out. That's what this was about. Thank you, guys. Let me hand this to the bosses and shut my mouth.
Thank you. So we have a special treat. Lara has agreed to give a keynote as soon as this debate was over. We understand it's gone a little bit long. Anyone who needs to leave now before she starts her keynote, this would be a good time to leave. But she will be staying and giving about 20 minutes of presentation on and allowing some questions from the audience of things that you guys really want to hear about. But before that, I want to give a special thanks to all of our sponsors. And our big sponsor, Check My Vote with Fani Matravati. Fani, can you please come up? I'm going to let him do the introduction because he does. I think does everybody know who Fani is, pretty much?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I was supposed to be on here earlier in the morning before the debate began, so I had this stump speech in my head welcoming the candidates, so I'll have to flip that script, unless you want to do this again right now. Okay, well, I'm sure you want to do this again because you're having a lot of fun out there, I could see. But my name is Fani Mantravadi, not to be confused with Fanny, because I know you don't, but it's P-H-A-N-I, Fani Mantravadi, and I founded checkmyvote.org, owner and operator of Check My Vote. And I call Michigan my home. In America, I call it my homeland because just a couple of months ago, I became a proud citizen of this great country, America. And I went about it the entirely legal way. I did the whole merit-based immigration. But you don't need me to come up here and tell you that Michigan is facing a lot of problems today. And but I'll tell you this. The things that you see, like whether it's potholes on the road or the gas tax that was just added to our gasoline, even though gas prices are going down, you're going to pay taxes now, you pay the same amount eventually. All those, in my opinion, are not problems. They are symptoms of an underlying root problem, which is systemic election corruption. And whatever Justin Benson tells you that, hey, there's only 15 people who are non-citizens who voted, well, to me, even one is a problem, because the very fact that a non-citizen can get on the voter rolls is a systemic problem. A one-off thing is not acceptable. The system is corrupted. So I my area of focus has been elections, voter rolls specifically, and that's what Check My Vote does. And the battlefield today for elections is very different. The landscape is so different. In the past, people like candidates had to just go win votes by convincing people about their plans and acknowledging the problems that exist, blah, blah, blah. But today, not only you have to win votes by getting your message across, you also have to defeat the cheat. So there is two angles to this whole thing. So my part as a new citizen of this country, what I'm going to be doing is, continue to do, is to ensure that fake registrations do not exist on the voter rolls. By going to Check My Vote every month, I refresh the voter rolls every month. In Michigan, we're also live in 4 other states, Rhode Island, Tennessee, West Virginia, also Ohio too. But in Michigan, I'm going to make sure nobody's registered to vote from my address, and if they are, I'm going to go run to my township clerk and get them removed. And I urge everybody to do the same to help our amazing candidates who have been courageous enough to stand up to run against this big behemoth of a problem that faces the entire country. And Michigan here, local action, nationwide impact, local action, statewide impact. So I want to thank the candidates here. I learned a lot of, because I'm going to be casting my first vote in the upcoming midterms. And part of voting is not just going to the booth and filling it out. You want to be an informed voter. Informed decision maker. More information, better decisions. So I'm so thankful I took away a lot today from our candidates because of all the information I was afforded for being here, and I'm so thankful for everything. And I'll just with that close down saying thank you all for having me here.
Thank you, Fani. Thank you so much, and thank you for sponsoring this event. Where is Bernadette? Bernadette, come on up. Bernadette is another sponsor of this event. She was putting food and snacks out there for you. Here you go.
Thank you, Braden. Thank you guys all. What an outstanding job you guys done today. And thank you, the moderators, my friends, and my advisor. I'm so pleased to be here today. What you heard up here today is so important. And I'm sorry? Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm Bernadette Smith, and I'm running for U.S. Senate. It's so important that we bring God back into our country. It is so important that we go back to the ABCs of our Constitution: accountability, balance, and the Constitution. I think we've lost our way, but we must find our way back. I will help not only Michigan find their way back, but I will help this country and President Trump find our way back. Faith, family, and freedom. Freedom, freedom. We're on the brink of losing our freedom, and we must rise up and be counted. We must not shrink in fear. We must rise up in faith. Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he thinks he can deny the armies of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ? Who is he? Who is he? Our forefathers spent 3 days of fasting and praying and came up with an amazing the Constitution of the United States of America, the Bill of Rights, and the Declaration of Independence. We will not lose it, not on my watch. Bernadette Smith for U.S. Senate. I pray that I have all of your votes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bernadette. And thank you for your sponsorship, Bernadette. Thank you for your sponsorship. Do I have the Ralph Rebrandt crew ready to go? Ralph's team, come on up. I thought we had some t-shirts here too, no? They're coming? I'm sorry. Ralph was out of town, so he sent a surrogate. So 2 minutes, and then I gotta go, right? Thank you.
Good afternoon to everyone. It's kind of hard to follow what just happened on stage here. Most exciting thing I've been around. Good afternoon. My name is Chief Anthony Holt. I have the honor of serving as president of the Southeastern Michigan Chief of Police Association. Today, I'm not speaking as a politician. I'm speaking as a law enforcement leader and friend about a man who I truly trust and deeply respect. That's Chaplain Ralph Rebrandt. Ralph has been my good friend for many years, and what stands out about him is really very simple but rare. His heart is generally for the people. Now, he doesn't care what political party you belong to. He doesn't care the color of your skin, where you were born. He cares about people where they are in their best moments and really in their worst moments. And let me tell you, that is a rarity. That is why I'm proud to say that the Southeastern Michigan Chief of Police Association endorsed Ralph Rebrand for governor of Michigan. Ralph has had our back for more than 35 years. He's been there where officers need counseling in critical situations. And I can really attest to that. It's tough being a chief when you lose a young officer trying to serve the community which he serves. You have to reach out to their parents and says, I need to pick you up. We lost your son today. He's been there where families were shattered by tragic deaths, suicides, and shooting. He has stood behind citizens on their darkest day of their life, offering wisdom, compassion, and hope when they believed life was over. But I want to be clear. Rolf doesn't just offer comforting words. His counsel has made a real difference. His advice has impacted Michigan citizens with sound policy, strong principles, and moral clarity on the toughest issue we face as a state. As chaplains to the Michigan Police Chief, his influences reach far beyond one department or one city. He has helped police departments across Michigan establish chaplain programs that have strengthened trust, communication, and build healthier relationships between officers and the communities they serve. I have heard Ralph speak at one of the conferences where he challenges leaders with what's really missing, with biblical principles of leadership. It reminds us of the historical meaning of our national motto, "In God We Trust." Those messages weren't political, they were foundational. His reach extends way beyond local police department. He understands leadership, service, and accountability at every level. So I say with complete confidence, Ralph Rebrand has the leadership skills, the heartfelt love for Michigan citizens, and the love for God that this state so desperately needs. Thank you.
Thank you to the Ralph Rebrand for your sponsorship and all of your team for joining us. Thank you, thank you. And at this time, the candidates, if you guys would like to take a little break to get off the stage, now would be a great time to do it. Again, this is the official conclusion of the debate. What's going to come next is just Lara doing a keynote presentation for us. So thank you to the candidates. Thank you to our sponsors. Thank you to this church that has given us so much. So, Lara, with everyone from District 9 and every patriot in this room wants to extend a heartfelt thank you. Despite everything that you have endured, hand that to her. Personally and professionally, you've never sold out or compromised your integrity. You have continued to put God and country above all else, no matter the cost, and thank you for standing strong and fighting for truth and defending for what is right every single day. We are deeply grateful for your courage and for having you here with us today.
Thank you, Laura. Okay. Thank you so much. I love the flowers. I needed something to give Tim and Abby for having me at their house. Now I have it. I'm kidding. Wow, thank you. So I'm here because Braden is a pain in the ass. I'm just kidding. What do I mean by that? I mean that he's persistent. He's persistent and he's passionate. What a great guy. He has integrity and he has real courage. And I love that. Because what is missing in this moment more than anything else, I think, is moral courage. What is moral courage? What do I mean by that? Well, we all know that courage is not the absence of fear, right? It's not hard to do something if you're not scared. Like people say, oh, you're so brave going to Baghdad. I loved going to Baghdad. I wasn't scared. I wasn't very brave. So I feel a little bit like a fraud when they say that, oh, she's fearless. No, I'm not. I just don't fear those things. You know why? Because I'm focused on figuring out what the hell's going on. Because my only value is if I can tell the truth, then that maybe reaches people, that means something. And they're not going to forget it if I do my job really well. And that's a hard job to get right. So I don't have time to spend on being afraid of anything. And in those moments of, you know, life and death is very clear. Are there people talking? Hey, Seth, get the hell out of here. What the hell are you doing? Tom. Amanda, you had your shot, baby. You gotta get the hell out of here if you want to keep talking. Seriously. I'm not kidding. Amanda, dude, lady with the gray hair, out! I'm trying to talk. Get out if you want to talk. See, you can get away with anything if you say it with a smile. I learned that from Ed Bradley at 60 Minutes. Not kidding. So my favorite question in Afghanistan was asking men, do you beat your wife? And let me tell you, most of them said yes. I'm not kidding. But, you know, if you say it like that, then people are willing to answer. And that's the point, isn't it? That's the point of real journalism, is you want to be able to ask anything. And you want to ask it in a way where people feel they have the space to answer. And so you give people a chance to listen. And so what really matters in journalism is not just the question. Sometimes it's very important to ask the right question. But usually what matters more than that is the follow-up. That's why they called me the follow-up honey badger at 60 Minutes. Because if you avoided answering in the follow-up, I was going to ask the follow-up again and again and again and again. And that's how you get to the truth, right? Now, sometimes the question itself can be a moment in history, like when Mike Wallace asked the Ayatollah of Iran, you know, Anwar Sadat says, you're a, I can't remember what it was, but it was a great question. And that they played that throughout time. But most of the time, what really matters is the follow-up. So asking the right questions is important. That's what we tried to do tonight. Listening to Michigan voters, thinking about the thing, looking at how all of that fits into nationwide, and then holding people to those answers is where you come in, right? That's what every single one of you is here to do, is to hold people. The days, we had a long time where we thought we were just okay, and you could show up to vote, maybe run for a school board, or if you're a mom, be the school parent. I never understood that job, having someone else telling me what to do in the classroom when it was related to my kids. But now I understand. Now I get thrown out of school board meetings. Sometimes they send the police, but in my town, you know, it's a really small town, so I think they're just there to say hi. Then they follow me to the parking lot and say, I'm really here to arrest you. You know, don't put me in this position. And I said, well, I'm fighting for your kids as well as mine. So just, I'll make a deal with you. I won't be mad at you for arresting me or throwing me out if you're not mad at me for speaking out. But I'm not going to stop speaking out. And I say that, because I think it's hard for people to be uncomfortable. It's hard for us to be uncomfortable. It's hard for us. It's not fun to be, attacked in the media. It's not great to be in the middle of a firestorm when everybody's coming at you. It's not nice to have things written about you in public that are not true, and said about you, and to be insulted, and to be attacked. And you know what? You can't win that battle, can you? You can't win it online. Because you don't even know if it's human beings that are coming after you. You have no idea. It could be bots. It could be some political operative that's been assigned, to create the appearance of a groundswell of grassroots outrage. Give me a break. You know what I mean? So, and even if you do, they hire people whose only job is to come into work every single day and make your life a misery. If they can, get you fired, make you a pariah in society, maybe get you to kill yourself, that'd be nice. They like that. Cause your family situation to collapse, your marriage fall apart. These are their goals. Think about that for a moment. What kind of person wishes that on somebody else? And then what kind of person institutionalizes that as an actual system of operation? And then who funds it? But he's not the only one. Soros funds it for sure. They say only the good die young, and it's really true when you look at George Soros, right? That bastard's gonna live forever. Seriously. I worked out that's because a lot of them do blood replacement therapy and use young blood. It's actually a real thing. Really, it's true, only the good die young. Because who would take would you take young blood so you could live forever? What the hell is that? Are you nuts? But then they say, we're nuts for raising it. Really? Huh. So you do all these crazy things, and I sound crazy when I accuse you of doing them. And then you get to accuse me of being crazy and keep doing the crazy stuff. Yeah, I don't care. So Mel Gibson said once that the number one thing most people fear is public humiliation, and I've had plenty of it. So that's where I am. I've had plenty of it, okay? I don't care. I don't fear these people. It's not, and sometimes it's not that I don't have any fear. I'm not invincible. I'm just like all the rest of you. But what I know is that I'm not going to give in to my fear, and real courage is acting in the presence of fear. And moral courage is something else, isn't it? So if you're one of these people that's going to run for office, and then you're going to get elected, and you're actually going to have power, and every day you're going to go out and you're going to lie, then you don't have moral courage. And at this point, I don't really care how we got here, in a sense. The fact is, we have a real problem. Because if you lose the election, okay, that's one thing. We all know it's not nice to lose, but I think most people demonstrate, most ordinary, decent people will say, well, we lost. Then you find you have a situation where we're expected to believe that some geriatric patient with circles around chairs who didn't even campaign, who by the way, doesn't represent anything remotely resembling Democrat, right? That these people actually represent the heart and soul of America. We know that's not true. I'll tell you how we know it. Because Nick Shirley's video uncovering fraud in Minnesota got 5 billion unique impressions. According to a data guy I met was it last night before in California. Just think about that. You know what that tells you? He doesn't have a deal with Elon Musk. They're not writing algorithms to support Nick Shirley. He wasn't anybody to them. So all those people who own big tech, that is an actual grassroots moment. That's a real moment that represents, you know what? It represents the heart and soul of people, not just across the United States of America, but across the world. You know what we don't like as human beings? We don't like to be robbed. We don't like to be deceived. And we definitely do not appreciate it when we elect people and put them in power and somebody else is in charge. What the hell is that? You got 15 U.S. attorneys confirmed out of 90, and you own the Senate? I'm sorry. Say that again? Oh, you have the National Endowment for Democracy that literally is undermining the president in real time. That is treason and sedition under U.S. law. And you can't get Republicans who have a majority in Congress to stop funding these people? And when I say in real time, I mean when Trump is negotiating with the president of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Tshisekedi, about mineral rights. Remember, he says, you know, probably thought it was random. Why are we talking about Congo? Suddenly he's making a deal with some guy in Africa. Okay, they only have, like, you know, some of the largest natural reserves of all the rare earth minerals that we need to power computers and phones and everything digital. That's the reason for the deal. But who's funding the demonstrations in front of the presidential palace in DRC? Who's funding the online campaign undermining Trump? Who's sending out all the bots? Who's coming up with all the talking points for all the assholes they put on TV? The National Endowment for Democracy. Do you want to fund that with your tax dollars? Okay, so ask the Republicans, why are you voting for this? Why are you subverting the president? Because he was elected with a mandate. I'm not here to say, I'm not here on behalf of Donald Trump. But let's look at the facts. Millions of Americans stood up and voted for a president to stop this. They expect him to uphold his oath of office and to address this grievance that is a guaranteed right of ours under the First Amendment of the Constitution. And his own party is subverting him on the floor of the House. That is a problem. Because what it effectively means, what does it mean? It means that even when you have power, it's meaningless. Every single executive order the president has passed can be reversed on day one of someone else's administration, because this Congress has decided not to vote any of it into law. Every single executive order. Remember what it felt like watching the Biden administration obliterate the energy industry, obliterate parents' rights, obliterate states' rights, obliterate the border, obliterate national security. Remember what that felt like? But the one thing you could hold on to, the one thing was that if we could mobilize, if people would get off their butts and actually go vote, if Christians, who still form the majority of any religious group in this country, would actually rise above 33% or something and go and vote, for goodness sake. For goodness sake. If you would actually do that, we had the hope that it would mean something enduring. And right now, it hasn't. Right now, Trump's executive order to rewrite the Foreign Service Manual, why does that matter? Because every time they try to do anything, the CIA controls the State Department. It's like an arm of the CIA. USAID was just a front for the CIA. So what are these people doing? Every time you try to do anything, you put anybody in there to do anything different, they say, oh, we can't do that. That's not what the Foreign Service Manual says. So you know what you do? You rewrite it. You rewrite it to actually to implement the policy of who? The diplomat in chief. Who is that? Who is the chief diplomat in the United States of America? I'll give you a clue. It's not Marco Rubio. Right? Neither is it, who's that horrible satanic-looking man, Hakeem Jeffries. It ain't that guy either, okay? It is the President of the United States. Who is the chief law enforcement officer? Yeah, not Blondie. It's not Blondie. It is the President of the United States of America. And you know what's happening right now? A man that was elected on the promise of dismantling the deep state has been working very hard to dismantle the deep state. You know who stops him? The people around him. The people around him and the people in his party. Tom Renz rails against this every single day online. And he's not alone. And you know what happens? It feeds into the narrative of all the people who want to dismantle the Republican Party. So let's look at what people themselves say. I'm kind of a first-hand sources kind of girl. That's how when I read the Steele dossier, I knew this was crap, because it didn't have any first-hand sources in there. It was all nonsense. That's related to this person, related to this person, related. Give me a break, okay? If you don't have that's why they all said it's an unverified dossier. In other words, it's bullshit. Yeah, and it's not just bullshit, because that would be okay. That would be at least something you could step over and keep moving. No, this was bullshit that was created for and paid for by people who are involved in a treasonous conspiracy, according to the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, and a conspiracy which is ongoing. So you hear anybody on television talking about statute of limitations, if you believe in the Second Amendment and you're armed, shoot your television. Yeah. Yeah, because ask yourself this, what does it take for a conspiracy to be over legally? Under the United States law, how do you end a conspiracy? The conspirators have to avow the conspiracy. Has that happened? No, it hasn't happened. All of it is connected. All of it is linked. The people who decided, oh, we're going to make sure that Donald Trump, they had a real problem, right? They had this little thing called an email scandal. I won't go into the details because it's one of my favorite subjects. I'm going to resist, but I'm just going to say this. If you have access to classified information and you work for the United States government, when you come to your desk every day, you have two things waiting for you that you are guaranteed by law. Do you know what those two things are? One is an unclassified server, and one is a classified server. How many servers did Hillary Clinton have in her basement? She broke the law. Okay, and you could keep going down every single part of classified information. So she had a real problem, and they had to come up with a way to make sure that she still got elected. So they started to create the Russia collusion narrative in the summer of 2016. And it went, and it has never ended. It includes Hunter Biden's laptop. It includes the Ukraine impeachment. It includes the theft of the 2020 election. It includes, by the way, every time any one of these, Trump's going to go have a meeting with Putin, Ukraine peace deal, whatever, and they all say, oh, there's that special relationship between Trump. That is an ongoing, seditious, criminal conspiracy that is defined as treason. Why? Because it involves foreign nations. Where did much of this happen? At a little place called Cambridge University. Why? Because they used think tanks and academic institutions and NGOs and universities and all of these places as cover for their covert operations. So what do you have? You have Sir Richard Dearlove, the head of MI6, former head of MI6, the British spy service. He's now in charge of Pembroke College at Cambridge. You have Christopher Andrew, a history professor, also a spy. And then you have what? You have Adam Kohler from the FBI, who's based at the embassy in London. And all of these people with Madeleine Albright, with John Brennan, what do? They have a summer course, or they have a workshop, or they have a conference. And they all come there in what is just outside of Cambridge University, headquarters of the DIA in the United Kingdom. And that's where they set up a dinner where they invited General Flynn to come with a Russian student, PhD student and teacher at Cambridge University. Her name was Svetlana Lakova. And what did they do? They tried to set up General Flynn and say that he was having an affair with that woman, that he never sat next to, barely spoke to, had nothing to do with. And that first time they went after General Flynn with that narrative was to get him out of the DIA under Obama. It failed. The narrative failed, number one, because it wasn't true. Number two, because General Flynn is the worst person in the world for you to try and honeypot, because that man is not interested and he's not dumb. He was the top spy in the United States of America. Okay, you got to try harder than that. And he's also a devout, strong, powerful individual who is committed to his wife and would never look sideways. And I've known him for 25 years. So that narrative fell apart. But what did they do? They reprised it for the Russia collusion one in 2016. And they got an American spy, Stephen Helper. They got him to lie and say that he was at the dinner. And that's the shit they put in the Steele dossier. That's what John Brennan put as an attachment to the information, that official report. That's what John McCain. Is there something that any of these people have in common? Republicans. Oh, yeah. That's what John McCain carried over in that dossier and gave to the CIA just to make sure, the FBI, sorry. And what do? The FBI corrupt people that are involved in this. They investigate. They create information and then they investigate it. That's what's happened with Russia collusion. They did an op. They created a fake op and then they made themselves the ones investigating it and pretended that it was real. And it's all coming apart in a court case in Florida, if you're not watching it, where John Brennan is facing indictment, and I think it's 24 people have been subpoenaed, including James Comey and everybody else, and nobody's paying attention. So I want to bring all of this back to elections and election integrity, because what does this have? How does it relate? Well, it relates very simply because it's very obvious. These people, Hillary Clinton barely campaigned. She was so certain that she was going to win. The only way you're that certain of anything is when you know the fix is in. That's the reality. Now, people ask me, I know how. I can't say how. All I'm going to tell you is those people who think that there's a plan and everything is good and you don't have to worry, you need to know that there are very committed, very brave American citizens, some of whom have served their country and been trained, who individually and on their own gathered the information that showed the Trump campaign how much cheating there was going to be, and were instrumental in helping to overcome the cheat the first time round. You would think that that would be a #1 priority for people who are running for office, but really it wasn't. I don't know, and I cannot explain why. All I can tell you is that a similar group in 2024 destroyed the servers of the voting machine apparatus that are based in Serbia that allowed the real result to happen in the 2024 election. However, there were still races where there was a lot of cheating, and there's been a lot of cheating since then. Virginia is the perfect example. And what you're looking at, the gerrymandering in Texas that got a couple more seats for the Republicans, has already been obliterated in California, by California, and Virginia is now about to redistrict themselves into a coma in order to reduce that majority in the House. The Trump administration is facing a very serious uphill battle in the midterms. I say that to you because you need to understand the reality of where we are. The loss of the midterms will see an impeachment of Trump. And this time, looking at how all those rhinos are voting, I'd be willing to bet my life that they will actually show themselves for who they really are and impeach him. There's a gentleman that I know, I'm still trying to persuade him. He has lists, because they've been tracking for years, all of the elected officials in the United States and significant members of our society who are on the payroll of the CCP. There are many of them. He said you'd be stunned. So I find it odd sometimes when you look and you see some people you know are useless and corrupt, but some people you're like, why would this person vote for this? Well, a lot of the times when they do that, the answer is money. That's why we ask the candidates up here who's taking foreign money, because we know that there's foreign interference in our elections. So what did President Trump have to do when he was elected? Well, he has to, some people say get rid of the machines, one-day voting, make it a holiday, all of these things, right? But what else does he have to do? He has to shut down the money that is financing the theft of our elections. Except there's a little problem. One of the problems is that there's a lot of Republicans who've cheated, and so they don't really like election integrity very much. But there's a bigger problem that he has, is you have seen USAID how many people think USAID has been shut down? It has been shut down, but why are you not raising your hands? Okay, so what's actually been happening is all of those NGOs whose programs were shut down have sued the Director of Foreign Assistance that Trump appointed, and they have applied for restraining orders. They've been given he's got more than 140 restraining orders against him. So what does that effectively mean? It means that that money is still being allocated at the Treasury. It's not going to the organization yet, but they've got a restraining order against the shutdown, the ending. So that is temporarily shut down, effectively shut down for now. But do you think the Justice Department has the ability or the will or the inclination, especially given how many traders still work there, to fight 140 restraining orders? No. And if Trump is impeached, and then all that money, some of them it's $1 million, $5 million a month, that's been accruing at the Department of Justice, all gets paid out to them. Okay, and if you think about what they've done, they figured out the perfect way with all this fraud to get us to pay for our own demise. That's what we're doing. It should make you sick. I mean, I live in a small town in Texas. A lot of people have 2, 3 jobs. I know a lot of people who will never own their own home. I know a lot of people who will never, ever purchase a new car. I know a lot of kids that do not have Christmas. I know a lot of kids that are with me for Thanksgiving because they never have Thanksgiving. So I don't know, I don't live in Michigan. I don't know what daily life is like. I know that that kind of struggle is not unique to a small town in Texas. That kind of struggle is happening everywhere across this country. And what we find out now is we have been robbed blind. So the president has to shut all of that down. He has to shut down the money that finances the machine. A big part of that machine is stealing our elections. How many of you really understand what's going on with Venezuela? Okay, so does it seem random? Why is Trump worried about Venezuela? He's doing this thing with Maduro. They're bombing the boats. I know that fentanyl's a problem, but I don't really get this. Is that what, I mean, for a lot of people, it's like that. A lot of you, I'm sure, know it's also related to the elections. But it's not just related to the elections. How many of you are familiar with color revolutions? Okay, so that's a buzzword that's going around the internet now. I'm really happy because I've been talking about color revolutions for 10 years. And it's good that people are talking about it and recognizing, because we are in the midst of a color revolution, which is what? It's a nonviolent, it's a way to overthrow the government of a country while making it appear that the citizens have done it and overthrown it. This is a civil thing when it's really financed from outside and it is an operation. And so you're not using the military. Don't sleep, for goodness sake, wake him up. And seriously, I mean, I'm tired too, you know? I had coffee and I had Theraflu. Okay, so the point, I mean, because this is serious stuff. I know you're still a little sleepy. It's okay. You got to concentrate, okay? So I mean, I really mean it, because we are not in the midst of a normal election cycle. There is no business as usual. If Trump is impeached, which is most certainly, if they can get the House, and they can get the House and the Senate, which is within reach, there is a very good chance, especially with all of the rhinos. Do you know that 63 rhinos voted against the defunding of the NED? So when people say to me, are there enough? Are there enough traitors in the Republican Party to impeach the president? Absolutely, yes, there are enough. Okay, and so think about what they're telling you they plan to do with that power when they get it. They are telling you that they're going to pack the Supreme Court. They're going to get rid of the Electoral College. They're going to make sure that they're never in this position again. And they have been a number of people who have stood up and said, and we're going to go after every single person. They're going to put Pete Hegseth in jail. They're going to put Tulsi Gabbard in jail. I mean, and you might be thinking, well, Trump knows this. Surely he knows this. Who knows what kind of deals they're trying to offer people to get them to believe. But I'll tell you this, you can't make a deal with the devil. You can't make a deal with the devil. And when Kamala Harris stood up and said to those 2 young men at her rally, when they yelled out, Christ is King, and she said, you're at the wrong rally. No one complained on the Democrat side. No one on the Democrat side stood up and said, that's not who we are. Nobody. There wasn't an outcry of any kind. There was no public comment. So what that tells us is we are truly in a moment where you have to choose. You choose God, or you choose the party without God. And so, and what does that mean? So a lot of people talk about a spiritual battle. Oh, we're in a spiritual battle, we're in a spiritual battle. But we never fight. We never talk about how to win a spiritual war and what our role is in a spiritual battle. And I'm not here to lecture people or opine or anything like that. My job is to point out the reality, and it's up to you to decide how you want to deal with it. I am here to tell you that in a spiritual battle, there's no do-over. There's no more elections coming after this that are real elections. None. There will never be, I firmly believe, with all my heart and soul, there will never be another real election in America if this happens. I want you to fight, not when you get up in the morning and you think about the 20 things you got to do today to keep your family alive and, you know, and all the rest of it and the aches and pains, and maybe you got a doctor's appointment, whatever. I want you to imagine that you're on a battlefield. You literally are in the fight of your life. And I know they have advanced weaponry and they have the masses and they have organization and they have a million things, but there's two things they don't have. They don't have the truth because they lie about everything. You were born a girl, honey. I am so sorry to tell you, but you're going to be a girl till the day you die. Okay? You got to come to terms with it. Okay? There's only one truth, and it is not on the side of people who tell you that there's your truth and my truth and all the other crap that they come up with. Okay, CO2 is a trace gas that is literally needed for life on Earth. It's not a poison. Protein made in a factory is not better for you than meat. Okay, I mean, do I need to go on? It's like all this, seriously, come on. Okay, so that's the thing, is they don't have the truth on their side. And they don't have God on their side because they won't even acknowledge God. So we put one man in office and we expect him to fight all of this and to do all of it. And then they expect him to somehow dismantle the machine that controls vote fraud without using the power that he has. Braden, you can make as many finger gestures to me as you want, and I'm not going to listen. He gave me moonshine taffy last night when he picked me up from the airport. I was still eating it this morning. No, I wasn't. Okay, this is really, really, really important. That machinery of Venezuela that many of you are familiar with now, not everybody, so I will make sure everybody can follow, but that machinery was born in Cuba with lottery machines. Cuban military intelligence is one of the most sophisticated in the world. Really, really, you can ask anyone in intelligence, any soldier, anyone in the military, and they will tell you that. They're really good at what they do. So for all those people who think, what is a little country like Venezuela? You know, how much of a threat is that really to our elections? Well, the thing is this, Cuban military intelligence came to Hugo Chavez in 2004. He had been elected in 1999 as a Marxist. Why? What was Venezuela up until that time? A petro-state. Largest natural oil reserves in the world, a wealthy country. Now, people were mad because the rich people in Venezuela took a lot of that oil wealth and didn't share it. So it wasn't very hard for a man like Chavez to say, you know, we're going to share the wealth. What that really means in Marxist terms is we're going to steal everything. Yeah, and we're going to kill you if you complain, throw you in jail. Oh, yeah, the two largest torture centers in the Western Hemisphere are both in Venezuela. One is a shopping center called the Helicoid. This is so important because the stories of what happened in the Helicoid are beyond description. The amount of rape and torture and murder. When I started reporting on Venezuela about 8 years ago, at that time there were 1,500 people disappearing every month. You realize how evil you have to be for 8 million people to run from you. I mean, that's quite an achievement since 1999. And it really, so what happens in 2004 is by this time that people have figured out that Chavez is a murderous, lying bastard. More than 90% of the population is living below the poverty line. People are routing through the trash for scraps of rotting food just to survive. They have been, I mean, every resource they have has been plundered. And when they run out of things to steal, they nationalize everything. They just keep stealing and stealing and stealing. And by the way, who is the richest woman in Venezuela? Hugo Chavez's daughter. There's no secret about where the money's going. Everybody knows it. So they leave in desperation and in droves. And what happens, so the Cubans say, Chavez, you've got a real problem. You're going to lose this referendum. But don't worry. We've taken this software that we use to rig the lottery and we put it in these voting machines, and we have a way to help you win. And that is the beginning of how elections today are stolen in 72 countries. That's how they decide who rules. There's only 3 of those countries right now where other candidates got in and the fraud failed. So, including, by the way, countries like Spain. So think about the fact that these people work directly with the Biden campaign and the John Brennans and all of these people. They have allies in the United States. This is not some Venezuelan issue. This is not some foreign problem. They work together. Their strongest allies are in Washington, D.C. So that is what you call treason when you work with foreign nations. Think now about the fact that the CCP also works with them. Throw in the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. They have bases, Iranian military bases inside of Venezuela that Venezuelans cannot go into, by the way, only Iranians. They also have uranium mines. Where are the Iranians mining their uranium for their nuclear program? In Venezuela. So you see, this becomes not just about elections, the same way that the tariffs are not just about tariffs. You know what the tariffs are about? It's not about pissing you off because your iPhone's going to cost more, or you maybe can't get the new Lexus this year. God, help me. We don't make our own gunpowder. How do you win a war if you don't have ammo? Don't talk to me about the Second Amendment. Your gun is going to be absolutely goddamn useless if you don't have any bullets. And where do they make it? In China. Where does your medicine get made? How many diabetics in the room? How many people with heart problems? Where do they make the medical equipment? Where do they make the medicine? In China. The food that you eat, where do they make the fertilizer? China and Russia. For crying in a bucket. How on earth can you ensure your own security if you've outsourced all of your manufacturing? General Flynn will tell you, you don't win the war on the front line, you win it in the rear. Because if your soldiers can't eat and they don't have any resupply, they're useless. Useless. So what are the tariffs really about? Do you realize we don't even make shipping containers anymore? You can't get the goods if China doesn't want you to have them. That is a national security crisis of epic proportions. Not to mention all the kids that are shipped inside those containers. And if you don't believe me, why are there organizations that have contracts? Because they created a test that you can fly over the containers and they can pick up human urine in the air to determine who's in those, if there's human beings in those containers. That's how you find out what's real and what's true. Not the conspiracy bullshit, but that's an actual fact. So if you didn't have to worry about there being human beings inside those containers, you wouldn't have to have a contract for that. If there weren't tunnels, then Elon Musk's boring company wouldn't be worth so much, would it? They're not suffering for business. So someone's digging tunnels. It's a fair question. What's in those tunnels? Why are you building them? Who's paying for them? Just like, oh, Peter Thiel, you're in the paper saying you do blood replacement therapy. Peter Thiel, who co-founded PayPal with Elon Musk and is creator of Palantir. Okay, so how much blood do you need to stay young? And whose blood is it? And is a baby's blood more potent than a toddler or a teenager? What the hell, people? Stop accepting all this crap. What's in the vaccine you're giving my baby? My child is not going to get an STD. Why do you have to give HPV vaccine at birth? For God's sake. So what does all of this mean? Well, you've got a president who's fighting on every single front. And within his own administration, within his own government, every single time he tries to do anything, he's got lawfare from the bench, he's got traitors within. You know what they do? They walk out of those meetings and they stall and they stall and they stall and they do nothing. And they let things rot. What has the Weaponization Working Group done? that he created inside the Department of Justice. Oh yeah, that's right. You've probably even forgotten that there was an executive order creating it, because they haven't, as far as we know, we haven't seen anything. So it looks like they haven't done anything. Maybe that's because they're not getting the resources that they need. Maybe there's no funds allocated in the Department of Justice, because maybe the bureaucrat that controls that doesn't actually work for the president, which is why treason and sedition and subversion, if it is not prosecuted, we're done. And you cannot be in a position where you get out, you vote, you go door to door, you do all of these things to win an election. You make sacrifices, you take the hits publicly. My kids got kicked out of school. Terrorist investigations slapped on them and then cleared and still kicked out of school. My children were targeted. So you do all of that and you win and you're still getting screwed. You cannot be angry enough with the people who claim to represent you and are lying or lack the moral courage to act. And so I'm just going to tell you this: there is no more powerful individual on the face of the earth than an American. Nobody else has a Bill of Rights. I have a friend in Holland. She's fabulous. If you want to follow her online, Eva Langenbroek. Gorgeous, sweet, brave, very smart, reliable, consistent journalist. And she came to do an independent conference with us in DC. And she just said, like, we can't move in Europe because of the censorship. They don't even have a way to fight it. We don't know how good we have it. Seriously, we take so many of those rights for granted. And I haven't even begun to discuss how we do not have any of those rights in the digital world. And nobody asks for a digital Bill of Rights. You don't even own your own image. When you look in the mirror, you assume you own that. You don't own that in the digital world. And the courts will rule against you every time until you have a digital Bill of Rights. But we don't even ask for those kind of things because we're in a death fight for our survival right now. And you know what they're going to start saying 3 months before the midterms? They're going to start saying, oh, you can't do that because that's election interference. Maybe even more than 3 months before the midterms. So we have about a month to 2 months to actually see real action. How many people here think that the protests against ICE are organic? Please, God in heaven, nobody say yes. No one's going to say yes, right? Just do that for me. Even if you think so, just shut up, because I'm going to suck your brain out and give you a little kick. I mean, so ask yourself this. Given that we all know this, why is it they haven't shut down the money? Why should any law enforcement officer in this country be subjected to what they're being subjected to on a daily basis? Our kids are being taught that ICE are murderers. That's what they're being taught. And they're seeing 400 videos a day, and guess what? They spend more time with YouTube and TikTok than they do with us. Let's be honest. They do. And even if you take their device away from them, all their friends do. And who do they talk to about this? That's a problem. Why do we allow our leaders to put people in harm's way? Do you know what these people do? They pee into bottles, water bottles, and they freeze it, and they use them as projectiles. They shit in buckets and preserve their own shit. They also don't brush their teeth. I gotta say, it's very stinky going to one of those rallies. I can't bear it. I'm a big hygiene person, you know? But when you got someone standing over you with a bullhorn and plaque on their teeth and breathing stinky breath in your face, they're vile human beings, these people. But apart from their individual lack of sanity, you know what else they are? Organized and paid for. You know how we know? Because don't you have to get up on a Monday morning and go to work? So how come they don't? Because someone's paying them. So who's providing the food? Who's providing all of this stuff? These are things that are easy to identify. We do it with terrorist networks. We can do it with Antifa networks. We can do it with NGOs. Shh, Braden, go away. Okay? We can do it with all of those things. I will wrap. I want to bring it, I need to just bring it back to the elections. We can do it with all of those things. What is this? No. We got till 5, Lori, right? I know. Okay, I know when they're kicking us out. We have a finite time on the building, I promise. I get frustrated that we have to go through the political charade of Tom Homan going to talk to Tim Walz and whatever, because Tim Walz should be in jail for like 9 different reasons, including his, affection for young boys that he used to take out of the school where he was a teacher, and they would spend the night at his house. And what are you doing? What do you mean? Like, why is nobody curious about that? I'm sorry, but I have a real problem with the rape and exploitation of children. And so, that should be one of the things we ask all the time. But why do you have to play this charade? Why are you not shutting down the money? And why are you not exposing the people in Congress who are involved in this? The people at the highest levels in our society who are directing this, the people in the intelligence services. We have a very, very short window. So when Trump gets into office, these people that say, oh, he's the president of peace, how can he send the military into Venezuela? How do you maintain peace without using your power? I'm not for one single second. Anyone who's seen the reality of war would never advocate for war. That's not what I'm doing. But I would like to ask, if you have a cartel, which is the wealthiest criminal enterprise ever created in the history of the world, that is running Venezuela, you think you can negotiate? You think that any deal you make is worth what the paper it's written on? It is not. And so what I was talking about with Hugo Chavez and the machines, once that happened, and Chavez knew that he had power now, there was something else that had been going on in Colombia, which was called Plan Colombia, which was 7th Group Special Forces under Southern Command. And what had they done? They had helped the Colombians. They'd worked together, and the Colombians were phenomenal. They had professionalized their military, their police, created special operations units, junglers for jungle rescue. And I went on operations with these people. I went into the mountains. I went into the jungles. I saw a lot of this. And they decimated the FARC, who were controlling the drug trade. And what did that do? It left a hole. Pablo Escobar, remember the days when, 12 to 20 people dying every day in Medellin? And now it's like 1 to 2. So what happened then is that they came with the Cubans and the Colombians, the FARC. They came to the Venezuelans, and they all made a deal. So in Venezuela, which had been a petro nation, petrodollars, that's what made Venezuela so wealthy, it became a narco state. And why is that important? Well, the U.S. went into Iraq. Oil prices went nuts. You're making a fortune out of oil. You're making a fortune out of drugs. They became the wealthiest criminal organization that we have ever seen, with $2.7 trillion today in liquid assets. So who's funding the theft of our elections? The cartel that runs Venezuela. So it's not just the election machines. It's not just the fact that they do that, because then, okay, Chavez dies, Maduro comes into office, but what do? They select Marxist leaders all over Latin America. And then what they do, you got their little journalists, little soldiers in the media that will tell you that, oh, Marxism is rising, the left is rising all across Latin America. Is it? Is it? Or did they create that? So you have the leftists, right, that have this power, that work to dismantle America from within. They work with the globalists, and they work with the Islamists. I call it the red, green, blue axis. The red being the Marxists, the green being the Islamists, and the blue being the globalists. So what you have now in Venezuela, you're electing all these Marxists everywhere. And what does that effectively mean? If you now have the power to install an American president, you got the Iranians, the Chinese, the Russians, the Cubans, the North Koreans, and the Venezuelans, and they are all working together. And then you indict Maduro. His indictment, they worked on it for 12 years. But you leave in power Delcy Rodriguez, the vice president, and her brother Jorge Rodriguez, who also run the cartels. Lorraine. And I'll tell you, 1 minute. Venezuela, they don't have stars on their epaulets, they have suns. So Cartel de los Soles, Cartel of the Suns, 3 Venezuelan generals who have micro networks who made Cartel de los Soles. So why is it so important to dismantle the cartel? You will not dismantle any of this apparatus. These are the people that inserted a foreign paramilitary force called Tren de Aragua that's militarily trained and trained in intelligence into our cities. If you see someone call them a gang, shoot them. Because it's not a gang. You're dealing with foreign military forces that have been infiltrated in this country over an open border by people who support open borders. Why? Because they do not support sovereignty, not of the individual and not of nations. So that's why it's really important when you see these things to ask yourself, these are not random. And when you apply that to your local elections, here in Michigan, everybody knows the CCP is heavily involved in the corruption in Michigan. So all of these things are working together. Okay, I know I've talked too much.
Give it up again one time for Lara Logan, who made this phenomenal for us.
Thank you so much.
Just so you guys know too, none of this would be possible without all of my volunteers that did this. You guys can imagine what it took to pull an event like this off. So thank you to all of the D9 volunteers, to the church. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We are going to give you more money because you guys have been so fantastic. There's a donation up here for you. And lastly, the table sponsors, I want to make sure they all helped in contribute monetarily too. So please help me in giving a round of applause. Hold it at the end. Genevieve Peter Scott for U.S. Senate at the end. Kevin Kiefsky, candidate for Attorney General. Julie Mayday for the U of M Board of Regents. Carla Wagner, Governor candidate. Deanne Lawless, Senator race Senate 23. Donnie Steele is also Senate 23. ME4I with Jeff Schaefer, thank you. Turning Point. James Hart, Next Strategies, Jacob Newby, Michigan for Citizens for Only. And finally, the brand new party with Shane Trejo. Thank you guys for your support. We love you. We can't wait to see you at the convention. There's blue marbles. Put them in for whoever you thought the winner was on the way out. You guys all have blue marbles? Dump them in. There's one for Amanda and one for Monica. So feel free to do the straw poll.
All right, wait.